Whipta if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mom can't afford it without me. Me, F29, and my ex fiancé, M27, have been living together for about 1.5 years. Fiancé got his undergraduate degree, worked for a couple years and then decided to get an MBA, which is how he ended up in our city. We moved in together after he finished his MBA program. Fiancé is from the Midwest and his mom has always wanted him to move back. When he told her he was staying here she was heartbroken. I went to college and got my degree in a STEM field. After I graduated, I got a job with my current company and moved to the city where we currently live. It's a big international company with multiple locations in the US and international. I love my job, I like the company I work for, and the pay is pretty good. All in all, a pretty good deal. During COVID my office shut down and we all went WFH. After COVID they decided not to reopen this office, so I've been 100% WFH since early 2020. I currently make considerably more than him, mainly because I've been working for 7 years and I'm in tech. I had been living by myself in a 1-bedroom apartment and just had my office set up in the living room since it was just me. When we moved in together, we decided to get a 2-bedroom apartment so I could use the extra room as an office. Because of this I was paying 2/3 of the rent and he paid 1/3. We split everything else 50-50, so the problem started this past May. Fiancé's mom told him she wanted to move to our city to be closer to him. She asked if she could stay with us while she looked for a job and got settled. She's a teacher so figured she'd be able to get a teaching job pretty quickly. Because of that I didn't really mind her staying with us as I figured it would just be for a couple months over the summer. Since I thought it would only be for a couple months, I moved my office into a corner of our bedroom and fiancé bought a bed to put in the second bedroom. The problem is she never applied for any teaching positions and has been living with us for 6 months now. She and I have really been struggling with each other since she moved in. I can't make her understand that I work full-time. She constantly interrupts while I'm working, which is bad enough, but she even interrupts when I'm on Teams calls. She always asks me to take her places BC she doesn't like to drive in our city. She has pretty outdated views of gender roles and is constantly giving me a hard time for not doing more around the house and making fiancé help with chores, do his own laundry, etc. The constant criticism and insults are just really wearing me down. And I hate having my office shoved in a corner of the bedroom. Back in September I told my fiancé that since it looks like his mom is going to stay a while we should split the rent 3 ways. He told me she can't afford that since she has to conserve money until she gets a job. I told him I wasn't happy paying extra for a bedroom I can't use, so finally he said we could do a 50-50 split. I could afford to pay the extra, but I hate the idea of funding her lifestyle. Every time I complain about her or the situation he says he agrees but doesn't know what to do because he can't kick out his mom. And he won't talk to her about the way she treats me or how she behaves. When I ask what the long-term plan is, he just says he doesn't know. I've thought about giving him an ultimatum to tell her she has to leave, but I think he'd just end up resenting me for essentially putting his mom on the street. So one of my girlfriends is losing her roommate the end of February. Our lease renews June 1st. I'm very strongly considering moving out of our current apartment and moving in with her. I can afford to pay my part of rent on our current apartment and also half the rent at my friend's apartment. It's not ideal, but I'm not a big spender, so it's doable. The issue is, if he and his mom aren't able to pay for 1/3 the rent each, there is no way they could cover the whole thing on their own. But I can't live like this anymore, so I'm pretty sure this is what I'll do, but I wanted to see if people thought I'd be the AH for leaving them like this. Comments. Commenter 1. His mom is the biggest A because she specifically planned this. It isn't that she's had bad luck, she didn't even apply. Add in that she didn't respect your workplace and insults you. She's basically trying to be the matriarch of the house, while being a complete mooch. The biggest problem is your fiancé though. This is just a glimpse of your future with a mama's boy. He's made it clear that he's okay with her walking all over you, and she's not leaving. You're going to end up as a third wheel in your own marriage. Commenter 2. I agree his mom is taking advantage, and your fiancé isn't setting boundaries. It's a big concern for the future. You deserve better. NTA. Commenter 3. Exactly this. You're not leaving them, you're escaping a situation that was never fair to you in the first place. His mom didn't just end up staying, she chose not to apply for jobs, and your fiancé chose to let her. Meanwhile, you've been paying the majority of the rent, lost your office, and now you're stuck in your own home with someone who disrespects you daily. If he wanted to build a life with you, he would have had a plan for this months ago. Instead, you're the only one being asked to sacrifice. Time to choose yourself, because they already have. Commenter 4. And be prepared for them to be upset because they are losing their money bags. They were using you and had absolutely no respect for you, neither one of them. If you don't leave you will be the AH. Commenter 5. I'm a teacher. An old, retired teacher. I could substitute teach every day this week if I wanted to do so. I still get requests to appointment interview for both public school and private school jobs. MIL could work if she wanted to work. I'm in my late 60s and drive all over and in Mexico and Europe on vacation. She is needlessly helpless. Commenter 6. Good news, you discovered your fiancé is a mama's boy before you got legally entangled. The price is 3 months of paying double rent. Sucks, but much cheaper than a divorce, alimony, child support and years of therapy cause of dealing with that kind of MIL. Mommy wanted to prove her darling boy would pick her and take care of her. So she moved in and proved it. He won't stand up to her. Sadly, unless he gets some serious therapy and figures out how to unmesh, he's never going to. So tell him flat out, Mommy wins. She gets her little boy back. You will find a grown man. You'll pay your portion of the rent for the next few months, but you're letting the landlord know you will not be renewing and do not use your income for renewal for him and Mommy. I'm sorry you have to deal with this. You did what you could, but unless he wants to grow up, you're going to spend decades hearing how you don't cook right, clean right, raise your kids, spend money, vacation wrong, and have bad values. She, of course, knows better. Don't do that to yourself. And maybe, just maybe, this will make him realize he's got to get off Mommy's titty if he ever wants a life of his own. Update. I'm in living with my soon-to-be ex-fiancé and his mom. I started off trying to reply to everyone's comments and keep up, but honestly I just got completely overwhelmed with all the comments. First off, I want to thank everyone for their feedback and comments, even the ones that were kind of harsh. Actually, probably especially the ones that were kind of harsh. I really needed some tough love to make me realize that I was letting my STBX and his mom take advantage of me. The more comments I read, the more pissed off I got. Honestly, I think I'm more pissed at myself for allowing this to happen and not advocating for myself more. This past weekend I got my STBX alone so we could talk, which was actually harder than it should have been. BC his mom always tries to tag along when we do anything. Going through all the comments everyone left and the PMs people sent really helped me decide how to approach this. And also, brought up a lot of good questions I should have thought of myself. Back to the discussion with the ex, I wanted to give him one more chance to pick us over his mom, not because I thought he would, but I just wanted to be able to tell myself I give him the opportunity. I explained again about how unhappy I am with the situation, how it's affecting my work because of her constant interruptions and just being unhappy and uncomfortable that I'm forced to work out of a corner in our bedroom. And I reminded him that until a few months ago I was paying the majority of the rent, and being that I make so much more than him, it's really my salary that keeps us all afloat. And I also brought up, again, the way she treats me and talks to me. And he replied the same way he has been. He agrees it's not right how she acts and that it's really uncomfortable for us all. WTF. I don't care if she's uncomfortable. Previously I would have dropped it there. But this time I told him how angry and disappointed I was that he let me pay for 2/3 of the rent when she first moved, and how unfair it was that I'm still paying for half when there are 3 people living there and she is the only one with her own bedroom. It was the same story, she has to conserve money since she doesn't have any income currently. Which brought up the question of where all her stuff went when she moved. What money does she use for incidentals? So evidently, when she got divorced, she asked for the divorce after my ex went off to college. It doesn't sound like her husband ex's dad wanted the divorce. His dad bought her out of the equity in their house. Ex didn't have any idea how much that was or how much is left. But until she moved here she was working full-time as a teacher and living in a small apartment, so she should not have had to tap into the divorce settlement money very much. Other than that, ex didn't have much insight to her finances other than what she told him, that she has to conserve money. I told him straight up that I'm moving out before the end of the month. And from now on I'm only paying 25%, as some of the commenters pointed out. She has a whole bedroom while I have to share with a man-child. So she should have to pay twice as much, and after I move out I'm not paying for anything else, no utilities, no food, nothing other than rent. I have a pretty idea what his finances are like, and if he has to pay 75% of the rent all by himself it's going to take a huge chunk of his net income. And after he pays utilities and buys groceries there won't be anything left for incidentals. Rent was due on the 1st but it's not late until after the 5th, so he has 2 days to come up with the $. If he doesn't come up with it and I end up covering, then I'll reduce the amount I pay in future months. The only reason I'm going to keep paying any of the rent is even after I move out, I'm still on the hook. I talked to the leasing office and they explained that since X and I signed a single rental agreement together, e.g. one contract we both signed as opposed to 2 contracts we sign individually, we are both responsible for the rent. They don't care who actually pays as long as it gets paid. The only alternative would be if he agrees to sign a new lease by himself, or together with his mom. But in all likelihood he wouldn't be able to pass the credit check on his own, so I'm kind of stuck. I don't think he'll do anything stupid tough because he's going to need to find someplace to live after this, and a collection on his credit report wouldn't be good. I also told him that I'm going to find someplace to work during the day until I move so she can't bother me. My friend I'm moving in with said I could work there during the day since she and her current roommate have in-person 9-5s. I took her up on that for now. After living with his mom, I'm not about to overstay my welcome, so I'm going to find some other options that I can rotate through. Someone suggested checking out the public library, or if it comes to it I'll get a membership at one of those WeWork kind of places. Just in case, I brought my important papers, files, valuables, and my friend is storing them for me until I move in. He really didn't take it well. The surprising thing to me is that he was surprised by everything. He seemed really shocked that I wasn't prioritizing his mom. I really got the feeling that he sincerely believed I wanted to take care of her as much as him, and he kept saying stuff like, "What about my mom? What am I going to tell her? That's how she is, but we still need to help her," etc. He asked about our relationship and the engagement. I told him after I move out I need some space from him. In a few months, when we've both had some time space to process what happened, if we both agree we can talk about the relationship. But he'd have to prove that he's going to have my back going forward and will set boundaries with his mom. I told him that just to avoid more drama, but I don't see a future in which we are together. I told him he needs to tell his mom because she's not my responsibility or problem, and she'll know something's up when I start moving my stuff out. He hasn't told her what's going on yet, but this weekend I'm going to start moving things so he doesn't have much time. My friend's current roommate starts a new job in another state on the 3rd, so in reality I can probably move in 2 to 3 weeks, just depending when she actually leaves. I don't expect him to do anything bad, other than sulk and complain, but if he does something stupid, or doesn't pay his part of the rent, the ace up my sleeve is I'll tell the leasing office his mom moved in, which is prohibited in the lease. Honestly, getting evicted would solve a lot of my problems right now, so it's a pretty valid threat, I think. Now that I've mentally and emotionally separated myself from him and his mom, I'm looking forward to her reaction when he tells her what's going on. If it gets too ugly, I'll find a cheap Airbnb or hotel or something. I've had some friends, including the one I'm moving in with, offer to let me couch surf for a few weeks, but I just can't do that to someone else. So, that's it, I'm leaving and I really don't care how that affects them. Comments. Commenter 1. You're at the end of a long and painful process, but I'm sure that you will be the better for it. Good luck. Commenter 2. Dude should really just marry his mom. Commenter 3. Notify your landlord in writing that you are moving out and to take you off the lease after June 1st. You wouldn't want to do nothing and accidentally trigger an automatic renewal. Reply. Already did that. I did it before I went to talk to the front office and confirmed that they received it while I was down there. Update. Hey everyone. I've been getting a lot of requests for updates, so I wanted to let everyone know how it went when X's mom found out about me not covering all the rent and moving out. TLDR, it was kind of a shit show. But I'm moved out and I'm off the lease. FMIL is on the lease now, and she and X's dad are covering half the rent and STBX is covering the other half. Last week I started working out of my friend's apartment, the one I'm moving in with, so I didn't see X's mom on Monday. Tuesday around lunch she sent me text asking where I was. I told her I was working and I'd be home late tonight. She replied that X told her I wasn't going to be contributing as much, so she had to loan him money for rent. That wasn't a surprise to me, so I just replied with an emoji. I had plans with my friend and her roommate, who I'm also friends with, to go out for dinner and then get some drinks. So by the time I got home it was after midnight and X's mom was already asleep. The fun started Wednesday morning. I was getting ready to go to work at my friend's place when X's mom stopped me and said we need to discuss my financial situation. Then she went on a whole tirade about her having to cover my part of the rent, me making foolish choices by going out to dinner when I couldn't even pay rent, I was irresponsible with money and inconsiderate of the impact it had on others, blah, blah, blah. She went on to say that if she was going to have to pay my share of the rent, that she expected me to do a better job of keeping on top of chores and keeping the apartment clean and organized. I told her I was moving out since obviously STBX hadn't told her yet. She seemed, I don't know, pleased with herself. All she had to say was, maybe that's for the best. When I got home that night, right off the bat, she wanted to talk. She said instead of me moving out, we could get a bigger apartment and she'd be willing to help by paying the difference between a 2BR and a 3BR. Then we could go back to the arrangement X and I had before she moved in, me paying 2/3 of the balance and him paying 1/3. Honestly, when she was saying this I think my brain vapor locked. She was making it sound like she was doing us a favor by offering to pay the increase in rent. Apparently this man-child who tells his mom literally every single thing about our lives and relationship hadn't bothered to tell his mom how much I was actually contributing. It seems like once she discovered X wasn't paying for everything like she thought, she wasn't as excited about me moving out. I tried to be polite and told her I'd already given notice to our apartment complex that I was moving out at the end of the month and already committed to move in with my friend. She kept pushing the issue and said if she was willing to pay the difference, I should just stay, because that would really be best for everyone. By then I was getting annoyed and told her that because of the way she has been acting and treating me I had no interest in living with her anymore. That's when the best line of this whole dumpster fire came out of her mouth. She said she was worried I was taking advantage of her son, and if we had told her about our financial arrangement she would have been more understanding of why I wasn't keeping up with the apartment. I told her maybe a good lesson from this is to try being nice to everyone in the future and not just the people you think can help you. And I asked her why she didn't help out more since she wasn't doing anything productive all day. She did not like either of those comments and it got pretty hostile with both of us yelling at each other. And to be fair, we both said some pretty awful things to one another. Finally I told her I was going to inform the rental office that she had been living there contrary to the lease agreement because getting evicted would be worth it to see her living on the street. I grabbed my laptop and went to my friend's. I didn't even bother packing an overnight bag. Next afternoon, Thursday, X texted me and said he had added his mom to the lease effective the first of the month and that she and his dad, I have no idea how that poor man got roped into this, would pay half the rent and X would pay the other half. I confirmed with the property manager that I was off the lease and didn't have any further obligation. I got it in email so I have a record. I put disconnect orders in for the utilities under my name and told him to call and set up accounts under his name. I'm going to lose the damage deposit, it goes to whoever is living there when lease ends, but it's a small price to pay to be free. On the way home I stopped and got a bunch of boxes to pack my stuff up. She was pretty hostile when I got home and when she saw how much I was taking she got worse. I ended up taking Friday off to finish packing and on Saturday got some friends to help move stuff to my new place. I'm going to pay my friends some rent for the next 2 weeks until the one move out. They didn't want me to, but I'm not going to stay in someone's home and not contribute. If nothing else, living with X and his mom taught me that. Last night X and I got together and talked for the first time since Saturday. He said his mom is staying until June. When the lease is up then she's moving back to their hometown. According to him, she just really didn't like living here and that's why she didn't try to find a job. Then he asked how long a break I thought we should take. A few commenters gave me a hard time for stringing him along, so I was brutally honest and told him I could not be with someone that allowed others to treat me the way he allowed his mom to treat me and that I hoped he learned to stand on his own and establish some boundaries. He looked like he was going to cry and just got up and left. As far as I'm concerned, this is over and done. I'm going to call it a learning experience and be glad I found out how awful X's mom is before we got married. The thing that amazes me is the amount of damage this woman leaves in her wake and how utterly oblivious she is. She destroyed our engagement and relationship, is leaving X in a much worse financial situation, pushed back her ex-husband's retirement by I don't know how many years since now he likely has to pay off of the mortgage, or second mortgage, he had to get to pay her half of the equity. And she made my life hell for 6+ months. And she's walking away completely unscathed. According to my ex, she's going back to her hometown and picking up her old teaching job. I'm thinking about going to visit my parents next week and working from their house. I want to tell them how boring and undramatic they are and how I'm so grateful for that and love them for it lol. Comments. Commenter 1. Always cut toxic people out of your life. Nuclear missile dodged. Good on you. I hope the old bat thinks of you every day she gets dressed for work. Commenter 2. Yes, glad you got out. He needed to hear the harsh truth of not coming back to him. He did this to himself when he didn't back you up. Who wants to be with a spineless jellyfish? Reply, honestly, I was intentionally kind of a bitch. He's complicit in torching our relationship, but I did love him. I was worried if I wasn't blunt with him he'd try to talk me into trying again and I wanted to close that door for good. Update. I haven't posted here BC honestly there hasn't been any real drama or updates since my last post. But, I've had several people DM asking for an update so I thought I'd let everyone know how everything turned out. If you haven't seen it, you can find the history in my profile. After I moved out of my ex and I's place I did end up going to visit my parents for a while. It was really just to give the girl whose lease I was taking over space to get her stuff packed up and moved out. It was great to visit with my parents and they were really supportive about everything and the choices I made. Mom and I spent a whole Sunday afternoon on the couch watching awful Hallmark movies while Dad fed us way too many mojitos. I've been living with my friend for about 4 months and everything has been going great. I feel like we're both super respectful and considerate of each other and it's made everything so easy and chill. After dealing with my EX's mom for so long, it was kind of a shock not to have all the drama and toxicity. I did hear from EX's mom 3 times after I moved out. The first time she texted to ask if I'd taken the air fryer. I did, it was mine. Then she texted a couple weeks later asking me to give her a ride to the pharmacy to pick up her prescriptions. And then she texted one last time telling me I needed to pay May part of the utilities for the last month I lived there. I ignored her the first 2 times and the last time responded that she should either use the money she saved while I was covering her rent or use the money they get back from the damage deposit. It's been crickets since then. I did see my EX one last time about 6 weeks ago. He found some of my stuff that I'd accidentally left behind, so we met up so he could give it to me. I was glad we met up because it convinced me I'd done the right thing. I didn't feel anything when I saw him except for relief that I didn't need to deal with his mom anymore. He asked if I'd be willing to give it another try if he put boundaries in place with his mom. I was honest and told him that I didn't see him in that way anymore and did not want to get back together. He looked like he expected that answer and didn't make a fuss. He did say that after I left, stuff with his mom got pretty tense. I guess things were tight financially, which I knew would happen, and she was upset that due to his job he couldn't drive her around and cater to needs. He said she ended up moving back to their hometown the beginning of May, which was the final month of their lease. He said was going to move back also once the lease was up because his friends were all in the middle of leases and already had roommates. He didn't want to live with a stranger, and the only apartments he could afford on his own were studios in really sketchy areas. So he's going to go back home and live with his dad. He didn't have a job there yet, but he figured it was the safest option. He's got his MBA and almost a couple years of work experience since graduating, so he's hoping that'll help him find a new job reasonably quickly. I kind of feel bad for him because he loves it here and his hometown isn't awesome. I didn't feel too bad though, since it's really his own fault everything ended up this way. He didn't say how or what his mom was doing and I didn't ask. I haven't seen or heard from him since then. I'm pretty clear I wasn't interested in trying again, and I don't want to be friends, as I just don't need the drama. I've been on a couple casual dates, but really I'm not looking for anything right now. I'm just enjoying hanging out with friends, taking advantage of the summer going hiking and stuff. I've spent some time reflecting on everything. I think if I'd been more vocal early on and stood up for myself, insisted that she pay rent, and not let her overstay, that maybe all this could have been avoided. But I'm glad I don't have to deal with her anymore, so I'm content with how everything ended up. Cheers and be well. Comments. Commenter 1. You did the right thing. He's not ready for a relationship if his mommy is always going to be his priority. Commenter 2. His mom moving in was actually the best thing that could have happened to OP because it showed her that spineless, no-balls ex was definitely not the one. Commenter 3. Mom and I spent a whole Sunday afternoon on the couch watching awful Hallmark movies while Dad fed us way too many mojitos. This is the way. Reply. Mom found a Hallmark movie drinking game online. I don't think I've ever enjoyed Hallmark movies this much. Stories number 2. Aita for telling my family I kept the gift I was going to give my sister, since we're allowed to do that. My sister, 15F, is the favorite, the golden child, the pampered princess, a title our parents gave her, and the light of our lives, another title from our parents. When we were younger it wasn't so bad. She was easy to be around and we were close. I, 17M, loved her, and even when she annoyed me it was more normal stuff and I could get over being annoyed quickly. But when she turned 8 it was like a different kid emerged. It all started with my parents helping her buy me a gift for Christmas, and then they let her claim it instead, and I just got one less gift and she got one more gift for Christmas. She started doing that all the time, and it wasn't just to me. There was a big fight at her old BFF's 10th party because my sister regretted giving her friend the birthday gift my parents helped her get. So she took it back. The birthday girl and her parents tried to stop her, but our parents told them that it was their money that bought the gift and the birthday girl hadn't opened it yet, so they could decide to keep it. That ended the friendship, and my sister was forever blacklisted from several kids' birthday parties and even their houses after that. Anytime she made a new friend the same thing happened, and even at sleepovers she'd pull the crap of getting food for just her with the money our parents left for the 2 or 3 of them. I talked to her about that stuff a few times, but she ignored me. One time I told her and she started crying and saying she didn't get why I hated her. I told her to stop being such a baby and got in big trouble. When I told our parents they were making her the worst to be around, they told me we both get treated equally and any perceived favoritism was insecurity on my part and not actually favoritism. Our relationship got way worse, and then on my birthday last year my sister told me she'd prove she still knew me and we could be close, and she chose the right gift for me. But she kept it for herself because she wanted it, and then she claimed like 4 gifts I got at Christmas. And because of my attitude both times my parents didn't give me gifts at all because they said I should be grateful for the thought. So I was like, fuck it this time. My sister's birthday wasn't too long ago and I decided to just buy myself something and I got it for me even though I knew she'd like it, but not just for that reason. Ever since I got a PT job my parents have insisted I buy gifts for them and my sister out of the money I earn. And I wasn't doing that. So on her birthday I told them I decided to keep the gift I got for her since we're allowed to do that. My sister cried and asked me why and basically whined that she really wanted to play the game I got and she didn't know why I was such a jerk. My parents got so mad I thought they'd pass out. They told me I was being such a bully and for a boy to bully a girl is incomprehensible but my victim being my own sister made it worse. I told them I was just doing what she's allowed to do. And I didn't see why it was bullying when I do it but not when she does it. They told me I did it maliciously but she just got excited for the gifts. Then they said she's younger so she's not expected to be on my level, hashtag. I was grounded for a while but I was able to stop them accessing the game so it's still mine. And I hid my money so they couldn't take it and make the purchase on my behalf. My sister asked me if I hated her like midway through my punishment and I told her I didn't need to answer her and didn't want to speak to her. I told her she needed to leave me the fuck alone. It pissed my parents off more, they brought up the birthday stuff and said I'm punishing my sister for being young. Stories number 3. The friend of my stepdaughter thought they could try to throw a pool party. Neighbors sending their relatives to my house to try to use my pool without my consent May 24, 2025. Do not judge my paragraph formatting please, everyone has their own structure of writing so don't be quick to judge or think it AI. Edited for some parts one forgot to include. For those commenting call the police read this whole post, the trespassers got arrested and got dealt with. The front of my driveway has a sign that reads private property no trespassing as you pull up to the driveway. I have a fence up around my pool to keep out unwanted animals and intruders with only way in is a key to unlock the gate. I have security cameras on certain places of the house pointing to the pool. Last summer while I was away my phone alerted me my security camera had caught something and so I checked to see the live footage. It was 3 teens that were in early teens and 1 adult trying to climb the fence to my pool. I have a tarp over my pool at all times which can only be removed from a switch in my house. You'd think they'd see the tarp and leave. I immediately called the police and they told me they'd take care of it. The 4 didn't even attempt to leave, they kept trying to climb the fence. I watched as the 4 were arrested. The day I get home my neighbor who must have been watching from my car storms over and starts screaming at me, "My sister and her kids are going to have a criminal record now because of you." I said, "So that's who my cameras detected. You should know my sign in front of my house says private property no trespassing." She says she'll see me in court when their court dates come up. The sister of the neighbor plead in court it was a hot summer day and they wanted to cool down so her sister insisted that they go use my pool but to ignore the sign that said private property because her sister and I are good friends. My neighbor and I are not good friends. I explained to the judges I did not give consent for neighbor to use my pool while I was gone. The judges saw all the evidence needed especially of the sign in my driveway saying no trespassing and found the neighbor and her sister guilty of second-degree trespassing which in my state carries the punishment of $200 fine and 20 days in jail. The judge found the 2 nephews and niece guilty as well. My lawyers requested a restraining order which was granted as well. The teen's lawyer tried to explain the teens didn't know about the sign in my driveway but the judge dismissed that because they willingly listened to their mother and aunt it was okay to trespass. So when are you opening your pool this year? Ever since one entitled neighbor had her family trespass on my property last year my husband and I keep pretty quiet about when we will have our pool open and only tell those we trust. I made a post telling the story about the entitled neighbor. So you don't have to ask. Yes, my property has security cameras pointed around the yard especially on the pool. Yesterday my husband was at the store buying supplies so we can start preparing our pool. One of our neighbors saw him and asked, "So when are you opening the pool this year?" My husband says, "Don't have a set date but we'll see, after what happened last year we just might have it be family only. If we plan anything for a gathering we'll keep people posted." Entitled neighbor's brother who was shopping nearby suddenly acted entitled towards my husband saying, "You and your wife are so selfish." The prior residents in that house used to let the pool be open to any other house to come over as long as they watched their kids. My husband told him, "Look, we've had an uptick of wild animals crossing over our property the last couple of years. That's why we had a fence put up around the pool and it's our private property. We don't have to always have people over especially if we're not home." Then husband left. I'm not sure why the brother is now acting entitled. It's what got his sisters in trouble last year. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Get cameras and call police for trespassing. They'll definitely come when you're not around. Reply. There already are cameras and there's a tarp over the pool which can only be removed by a button in my house. The fence was recently rebuilt to be more reinforced and still have key to unlock it as well, not easy to climb over. Commenter 2. I would stop letting people onto your property to use your pool. Not only is it a danger where you can be sued but people around the neighborhood clearly feel like they have a right to it. You don't have to be nice about it. Reply, I don't let people do that at all. My neighbors learn from my husband and I during another neighbor's gathering. My family are nudists, so from us telling them don't be just inviting themselves over, call me before unexpectedly showing up. Commenter 3. Def put signs up saying private property. That way if anything happens it's 100% ironclad for court insurance. Reply, I gave my dad a check to cover the signs and putting them up yesterday during the family cookout. He texted me during my lunch break to say they're all put up. The friend of my stepdaughter thought they could try to throw a pool party June 20th, 2025. Today my stepdaughter called me during my lunch break to see if she can have a friend over, which I said I was fine with. Stepdaughter is very mature for her age, she's 17. While my husband and I work, my stepdaughter and her siblings watch the house with my parents who pop in to check on them. When my dad arrived a few other cars were right behind him and he asked, can I help you? It was 4 cars full of teenagers whom one said, yeah old man, we're here to use the pool, insert my stepdaughter's name, said she was having a pool party. My dad tells them to stay put and goes to find my stepdaughter, and when he found her she said she didn't say anything about a pool party, it was just supposed to be one friend coming over, that was it. My dad calls me and explains the situation. I tell him to tell the rest of the teens minus one named Josie to leave. In a text I got from my dad just now he says he went back out and told the teens they need to leave, but because he knows Josie he tells her to stay put. The other teens all call my dad a party pooper and flip him off as they leave. My dad talks to Josie and asks why did Josie have so many people with her, and Josie says she drove by herself. Within a few minutes another girl pulls up and asks where's everyone else, and my dad asks her, did you tell everyone there was a pool party? Girl says, yeah everyone knows, insert stepdaughter's name, has a pool. My dad tells her the pool isn't even remotely ready and he recognizes her as the granddaughter of 2 of his friends he goes out to breakfast with on Saturdays with my mom. My dad tells her to leave and she tells him to F off. My stepdaughter storms out and yells at the girl telling her to leave and she was not entitled to try to think she could throw a pool party. The girl eventually left and Josie explained that the girl was with her, and as soon as Josie got the okay to go over the girl thought they could throw a pool party without checking in first with my stepdaughter. I'm proud of my stepdaughter for helping my dad. As for the other girl, I'm sure my dad will be talking to her grandparents tomorrow morning about how rude their granddaughter was to him. Updated. My parents stopped by to say they spoke with the girl's grandparents during their traditional Saturday breakfast with friends and they are friends with the girl's grandparents. My father asked his friends what caused her to think she was so entitled to think she could make up such a lie about his step-granddaughter having a pool party. The man responded, she's been having a very stressful year with her parents' separation, and without the balance of both parents in her life at the same time she's been acting out a lot more to get attention and to cause trouble wherever she's planning. She's recently gotten in trouble for shoplifting, getting gas at gas station where they pump gas for you then driving off once her car's tank is full, and so much more trouble. Each time she's confronted she screams she's entitled. The wife replied, her father never was this way, but for her to be behaving like her now entitled ways is ridiculous, and she's been warned several times by both parents to stop acting entitled and causing trouble where there was none. They both feel her parents are doing everything they can to ensure her. Just because they're now heading for divorce doesn't mean she isn't less loved, but she's not listening. My father told his friend, the next time she does anything to alienate my step-grandchildren I'm getting the police involved and suggesting she goes to jail. I'm surprised she hasn't gone already. Stories number 4. Aita for not telling my wife I'm moving to Hawaii permanently. I, 26M, have been married to my wife, 25F, for 4 years. Her and I have had our fair share of disagreements, arguments that turn into one of us raising our voices. We've never blatantly yelled at one another, or using words like shit, fuck, etc. never directly to one another, always about whatever we're disagreeing on. She has left me 4x. First 2 XS were a week long, third X she said it was over and that she would eventually file papers, separated for 5 months, fourth X she just said, I need a few months before we can talk again. I've started to see a therapist and psych and was recently diagnosed with a number of things as I had been struggling with psychosis among other things, PTSD, depression, anxiety. She's always been the one to leave and she usually plans far ahead for when she does leave. She's never given me a warning, it's always been, alright I'm out, with her already having things in place for herself. This last time was like every other time, she planned it and I found out as she was grabbing her things to leave. I fell to my knees pleading with her as I had been at my lowest mentally before she left, and since I don't have contact with family anymore, she's really all I had in terms of family. As I knelt there begging her to stay, she said, we'll talk in a few months, and left. Every time she leaves, I must cater to her even more so than the last time. It's almost like she's training me like a dog. With her knowing I don't have many other people to where I've called crisis hotline a number of times, she thought it would be best if we went no contact for a while. I'm also almost positive she just booked a cruise with her best friend and she's made efforts to ensure I don't find out. Hawaii, I have a family member who I haven't seen in a decade stationed there. Him and I have always had an amazing relationship, and when she left I tried reaching out to as many people as possible as I cried for help as every night grew longer and darker in more ways than one. He was one of the few to reach back out and he invited me to live with him and his wife for a bit until I get settled with a job, healthcare worker, and eventually a place. I've booked my flight and while she said, I won't be filing papers, I'm afraid this cycle will continue of, I'll take you back but you've got to do this. I have plans of just up and leaving. We currently share an apartment which she's moved out of for the most part. I'd be leaving her with the lease for the last 2 months. So essentially, Aita for leaving her high and dry this time. As far as legal consequences, she won't pursue that, doesn't really believe in it, long story. Stories number 5. When I got 20 people fired because they tried to fire me. My accidental revenge that I didn't plan but I'll be damned if you back me into a corner. A few years ago, I was working at a popular petrol station, on a popular freeway. Unfortunately, one afternoon I'd had a freak accident reaching for my drink bottle, my core was obviously still developing, and I slipped a disc between L5, S1. Side note, it was beyond anything I'd ever experienced. My mother dressing me as a grown adult, heavily relying on opioids as if I even so much as cough, my legs would crumble. Many months of physio etc. I was approved to return for minimal hours. I understand it was a freak accident, and not at one point did I blame it on the company, but it happened at work which probably saved me years of spinal surgeries. Carrying on. One day back at work during a 4-hour shift, I'd had a sore throat that day. Normally, we are allowed to grab a coffee once a shift. I asked the 2IC, let's call him Clifford, if it was possible to have a cup of slushy instead to soothe my throat. Clifford responded, yeah that's cool, just put it in a coffee cup. Which I did, following his guidance. Side note, I was soothed. The next morning at approximate 7 a.m., I awoke to an official email from this company stating I'm being suspended without pay due to a serious breach of conduct. Obviously, I'm baffled and pretty upset. I'm aware that I'm back on reduced hours, being watched, etc. etc. I reply and we set up a meeting in person 2 days later. Attending, me, my support person, the 2IC, the store manager, and 2 persons from HR which I'm sure they had to make a gigantic drive for. We sit down in an adjacent building. Still baffled. The store manager, hi, so we've called you here today for an offense that we can terminate you immediately. TBH, at this point I was absolutely shitting myself. What have I done? It was like when you go through airport customs and you're wondering if that kilo of cocaine was accidentally left in your carry-on. I asked them to elaborate. They begin with a very patronizing question which was the first red flag. Do you understand the definition of stealing? Me, still baffled, I would like to think so. The store manager begins, backstory to set the scene, he was 5'0", 50 years old, very flamboyant. Monday, you drank a slushy, out of a coffee cup and that is a breach and considered stealing. At this point I was relieved because the 2IC was in the meeting, and I reacted like, oh. This is all a misunderstanding, I asked Clifford before I touched anything. I thought it was same but double-checked and got permission, smiley face. This MF, 2IC, looks me directly in my eyeballs, across the table and says. That never happened. The silence was palpable. My jaw was in my lap. My eyes are darting back and forth, thinking there's no way I'm being set up LMAO. 170 scenarios ran through my head. Confusion, shock, anger, then, acceptance. My back was fucked, I was trying my best to recover and now being accused of ripping petrol station off by 0.03 cents worth of slushy so the managers could get a bonus from getting rid of me. This is my favorite part. Everything melted away. The anger, the unjust, everything. I let out a big sigh and I started smiling. I looked directly at the store manager, who unfortunately for him underestimated my observation skills. A week prior, mind you there was plenty of other offenses, I saw him purposely knock a packet of Oreos off the shelf following and oops, I guess I'll have to write that off for my morning tea meeting hee. At the time, I didn't even think about it. I don't care. You do you. But now, I said alright. But if I am confused, let me clarify something. I stared down the store manager, laid out what had happened, and asked him in HR if that would be considered stealing. Without breaking eye contact. I witnessed his soul leave his body. I sensed HR do a slow pause and turn. I quickly moved on, I was taking everyone down. Next, the 2IC. Who I also had nothing against but here we are. He was freshly married, 2-year-old and a baby on the way. He was also fucking another cashier, let's call her Trina, in the bathrooms during work. Again. I minded my own damn business, even though I thought he was a POS. I looked at him, then the manager, then HR, and asked if the 2IC was a reliable source of information seeing as he's having sex in the bathroom, cheating on his wife etc. Another one down. By this point HR are needing a defib. Then I threw in that half the staff are smoking weed on their break, no hate but it was more to throw shade that the manager is useless. While I was at it, I truly only liked 2 people that worked there, from a very busy 24-hour store. I went on for the next 30 minutes about every single breach I had seen in the last week and let them know I could definitely help them out with more information etc. The meeting was abruptly ended. 3 days later, I was still offended, but had gathered myself and I thought, FK them, I'm young I'll move on. HR called me and asked me to come in, and I had absolutely prepared myself to be fired and I was already mentally checked out recognizing that there's no way I could go back and play nice with people that threw me under the bus. I sit down. HR are groveling. There's probably some sort of court case I could have followed. But again, I was young and ready to burn the bridge. They offered me a 2IC job. Oh. What happened to Clifford? They tell me that he and Trina have quit because Clifford's wife was trying to pull her through the safety barrier every time she went on shift. Also, they fired 18 people for breaches after going through a lot of footage. This included staff eating expired food etc. I asked them to give me some time to think about. I walked back over to the main store, there is my manager in tears, packing his stuff up in the office into a cardboard box like some sort of movie scene. I couldn't help myself. I had a spring in my step. I asked him why would he be crying. What's wrong? He told me through tears he's going on leave blah blah blah. I quit 3 days later and went to another country on credit card. Best 2 weeks of my life. Happy to answer any questions. Stories number 6. Wibta if I ask my employee if she's pregnant. I own a small cafe, and only have 1 employee. She was recommended by a frequent customer, her husband, when I posted the listing. I interviewed multiple people, and she was not only the nicest one but genuinely the best candidate. She'd been a stay-at-home mom for 11 years for 3 kids and said that she felt it was more important for her to be there with them than working, and I can't and don't fault her for that at all. She shows up, she works, she does everything and more that I need her to do. I have 0 complaints about her as an employee, however over the last 4 months I've noticed some changes. Number 1, she is tiny. And when I say tiny, I mean that. This girl probably weighs 100 pounds soaking wet. And she's never worn tight-fitting shirts. But her shirts are starting to fit tighter only in the stomach area. And it doesn't take staring to notice. Number 2, she used to only take her food to go at the end of the day. Now she'll ask me to cook it earlier, not an issue, she can ask whenever she wants, but she eats at least half of it immediately. She's never done that before, even if she got it before she left. Number 3, her husband has come in a few times and also her father and asked her things along the lines of how she's feeling, and I've overheard her talking about a doctor's appointment multiple times. Now we live in a right to fire state, so after talking to my wife I get why she might be worried to tell me in the case I might do so. But I don't want to, and I won't. But I'll admit I'd be a liar if I said I wasn't a bit worried she'll have the baby and not come back to work when she's the only one there to help me out. So, would I be an asshole way out of line for asking her if she's having a baby? Comments are somewhat hostile to OOP. Commenter. Yes, YTA for sure. 1. She has every right to privacy and you have no right to ask. If she's choosing not to share, assuming there is anything to share in the first place, there may be a good reason for it, medical or otherwise, or maybe she just doesn't feel it's a necessary conversation to have with her employer because she is not required to do so. 2. I'm not going to assume anything about state employment laws where you are, but even if you follow them and can legally terminate her because you think she might be pregnant. YTA. Also you run a cafe, not a surgical team. Hire someone part-time so you feel more comfortable. Sheesh. Reply, I do not intend to fire her at all. I just need to make arrangements for whatever amount of time she needs off, if she'd like to come back. We haven't been open even a year. And our space is limited. 3+ employees will be trampling on each other in our cooking area. Commenter 2, YTA right to fire equals right to quit. Did she sign a contract? Are you offering her benefits? Health insurance? Retirement? You fully admit that you could fire her for being pregnant if you wanted to, but somehow you're the victim because she might quit and you'd have to, gasp, find another employee. It's a job at a cafe. It's none of your business if she's pregnant and she doesn't owe you anything. Reply, I do not mean to imply I'm a victim at all, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm concerned that not only she could be worried about it when it won't happen, but also that if she decides not to come back. My wife is the one who pointed out that she could be worried for that reason. And we are a small business. It is only the employee and I every day, so with it being only us, there are no benefits. However, any time she needs to be off, she gets off and I can usually find a family member who can help out for the day. But that's harder to do when it's all the time, which is my only worry. I will not fire her. She can work until she has the baby if she is having one, and if she decides to stay home with that one as well, then that's fine and up to her and her husband. But if I need to hire new help by a certain point, I would also like to know that, too. Because at this point even the people that were helping out before can't help out like she does. So I'd like to have the time to train someone. It's just the two of us, so that would be helpful. Update: she is pregnant. I did not ask her. Her husband told me and said he's been telling her she needed to tell me, but he said she wasn't sure about how much time to ask off for, if I'd think she wasn't coming back, or if I'd need help and nobody else could help. Because the job has become important to her, so she kept putting it off. He said her plan was to come back after 2 weeks, but these are his words before everyone comes for my head again, said that he wasn't going to let her at that point. Which I fully understand. From there I decided I should save all the tips that would be hers and give them to her, so that is what I'm going to do, just so she's not completely out of pay, and she's honestly earned it. She truly is a great employee and I'm happy for her and her husband and their family. Comments. Commenter 1. You acted like the boss she desperately needed, and that's worth more than any policy or contract. Stay the course and support her openly, because loyalty is born when people feel seen and valued, and she will repay that tenfold when she returns. Reply: I honestly couldn't ask for a better employee than her. I'm glad she plans to come back when she's had the time she feels, or I guess her husband, according to what he said, feels, she needs to come back to work. Commenter 2. I love how in your original post you got downvoted for saying that she has her job guaranteed if she decides to come back. Reply: I know I probably could have phrased my post better somehow, but it seemed like everybody missed that part. Commenter 3. Do you have a lot of regular customers who know her and will miss her? Maybe you could ask if she minds, once the baby is born, if you let people know why she's off work for a while. And perhaps have a dedicated tip jar for employees, new baby fund, so her regular customers can contribute if they like. Or offer to share her registry link with regulars. Commenter 4. I second this. This is such a great idea. If I was a customer, I would 100% chuck in a few extra tips if an employee I saw often was having a baby. Reply: oh, they will definitely miss her. I won't be recognizing their voices on the phone immediately, or their phone numbers on the caller ID, or just knowing what they want to drink and having it ready without them specifying it, or any extra sauces they want without them telling me. This is a good idea, thank you. Stories number 7. A prior tenant keeps showing up to my home banging on the door and honking. I just moved to a new rental home about a month ago. Ever since, I've been getting a significant amount of junk mail and bills addressed to the prior tenant. I did the right thing, wrote "Return to sender not at this address" on each envelope and put them in the mailbox with the flag up. But the mail keeps coming. About 2 weeks ago, a woman drove aggressively into my driveway honking. I work from home, and my office window faces the road. I keep the blinds open, so I clearly saw a lady in her car waving at me with a huge cast on her wrist. She wouldn't get out, so for safety, I started recording and hid from view. I don't trust anyone, sorry. She eventually left. Next day, same thing, pulled in, honked, waved. I hid again. She screamed, I want my mail. Sorry, I don't know you. I'm a female alone in a new area, this could easily be a trap. When she left, I noticed a package I was expecting was missing. I called non-emergency dispatch, told them what happened, described her and the car, and that my package was gone. They said they'd send an officer. About 20 minutes later, a cop and the lady showed up. Small town, so they found her fast. The officer acted as a neutral party while she explained that she uses informed delivery, saw my name, found me on Facebook, and messaged me a nonsense request to get her mail. It was marked as spam, so I never saw it. I told her any mail not mine is marked and returned. I even taped a note on my door saying the same. She claimed she didn't take the package, and it still hasn't shown up. I told her she scared me, and she said she only honked because she was scared of my dog, a 10-pound Chihuahua. Things calmed down, and they left. Side note, this is a huge privacy violation. She still has informed delivery here and found me on Facebook, which makes me uncomfortable. I contacted the post office and requested they stop her informed delivery access for this address. I thought it was over after the police visit, but yesterday she came back in a different vehicle, pulled in aggressively, honked, rang the doorbell 3 times, and banged on the door. I didn't answer and hid again. She left quickly. AITA for ignoring her, not giving her the mail, not responding to her on Facebook, and calling the police. I'm not collecting her junk mail like a free P.O. box. I also found out she was evicted, had lots of people at the house, and treated the place horribly. I saw the condition when I toured. Filthy. Stories number 8. Aita for basically telling my in-laws this is my house, if you don't like my rules get out. First off, I don't think I was wrong, which has infuriated my girlfriend. I, 25, recently moved into my house. My girlfriend, 27, and I had a little housewarming. Her family, my mother and a few of our friends. We were eating outdoors and the kids had their own table. My girlfriend's nephew, 8, knocked over a jug of dilute. I was at the table when it happened and it was clearly an accident. He was very polite and apologized. He was a little upset but I just laughed it off. His father came over and I was shocked at how much his father gave out to him. I told him it was only an accident etc. and he kept going. I felt really guilty for not stopping it. He ran over to the corner of the garden and started crying. His father went back to the table and he said what happened and his wife said he deserved that, he should stay there a long time or something along those lines. There was almost a snigger from some of her family. Anyway, I went over to the boy a couple of minutes later. I gave him a bar of chocolate. He was still crying. He said sorry again. I gave him a high five and taught him this high five I used to do as a kid. His mother came over and said, "Do you mind not talking to my son? He needs to think about what he did wrong and he needs to do that alone." I took her and her husband aside and said, "This is my house, if you want to upset your kid don't do it here. If you don't like it get out." I swear the reaction that followed was insane. They went back to the table saying it. My mom said, never holding back, "Didn't I raise a great son? He's spot on not to let bullies in his house." Which erupted it even more. My girlfriend spoke to me in private and asked me to apologize to them. I said no. I stand by what I said and, this part 1 regret a bit, I told her I think less of her for even asking me to apologize. A mate of mine and his son kicked ball with the boy and I. He actually gave me a hug, I don't do hugs, at the end of the party and said sorry again. He hugged so tightly for a couple of seconds. I really could go on about the drama but in short her family thought I was wrong. I was getting little digs etc. My girlfriend's friend came up privately and said I was right to step in. My girlfriend is still pushing for me to apologize. I still don't think I did anything wrong. I didn't tell them how to parent but told them to leave if that's how they want to parent. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't say this, I'm not sure I'd want a kid with a family like that. Aggro over spilled FNG flavored water. Wow, there's so many messages. Apologies but I can't respond to all. Some of the common answers to responses. Agreed, what must they be like in private? Snigger is a word, at least in the UK. My mother is the best mother any kid could have had. Yeah, it puts a big hole in my future with my GF. Commenter 1, NTA. You do realize you can't have a child with your girlfriend now? She supports this behavior, thinks it's acceptable and will do it to her own children. If you have children with her, those are its grandparents. They will treat your future child the same way, and she will always let it happen. Reply, honestly that's really what's going through my head more than anything. Even my GF doesn't seem to have had too much of an issue. Commenter 2, NTA. That poor little boy is being raised by bullies. Whether or not you stay in your girlfriend's, life, I know he will always remember your kindness. Reply, thanks. It honestly felt very bully-like. The reaction felt really overblown. You'd swear he had hit another kid. Commenter 3, NTA, did you buy the house with your girlfriend or is it just you on the mortgage deed? She's a willing participant in their antics. Reply, I bought it off my grandfather at a cut price. He wanted to downsize but didn't want the family house going out of the family. I spent much of my childhood there. Basically was my home. OOP shares his mom's words of wisdom after the incident took place. Reply, mom's private words of wisdom afterwards. What a disgusting family. Surely nothing in the kitchen or bedroom could make her good enough. Top commenter, this is my house, so I get to tell you how to parent. No, totally insane. Reply, I never told them how to parent. I told them I didn't want that parenting in my home. As I told them, they were welcome to leave. If I was in their home, I'd walk out. OOP clarifies what dilute is and what gave out meant. Reply, dilute is like a concentrated flavor you add to water. So you'd have orange, lemon, blackcurrant or whatever. Ribena, gave out is like got angry with him. Update, this isn't Ada but a bit of a rant. Not sure if many remember. My girlfriend's nephew spilled flavored water at my housewarming and shit hit the fan. That happened about 2 months ago, so not long after I made the post my GF and I broke up. Honestly, the more I thought about the situation, the more annoyed I became by it. Wednesday evening, my ex-GF called me and asked me to come over. I went over. I thought she might want to try to get back together but that wasn't it. She was minding her nephew for a few nights. She said there was a mark on his arm but he said he wouldn't tell her. She said she didn't know who else to call. I played a bit of football with him. And after a bit I asked him what happened to his arm. He said he didn't know. I asked him a few more questions and he got really upset. I gave him a hug, probably shouldn't have, and said you're not in trouble etc. It went on a bit and eventually he said his dad did it. I asked does he do it often to him. He said it was just the once because he was really angry. I believe it was the once. He did admit his parents do other stuff that I would consider abusive. I told my ex-GF. She said she's shocked. I don't think it was shocking. She said she can't ring social services and asked if I would. So I rang them. They will take it seriously once his parents are home from their holiday, apparently. The poor little lad. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you absolutely did the right thing by calling. Even if it was just once, a child being hit like that is never acceptable. Hopefully, this leads to proper intervention. Reply, thanks honestly it was the other stuff he said that worried me. Commenter 2, info has your ex-GF apologized to you for the shit she has given you? She seems to be big on apologizing after all, from reading your last post. Also, if she did apologize, admit that she was wrong, and ask for your forgiveness, would you give it? You seem to have a good relationship, up until that point, so maybe she does regret what happened. Reply, she hasn't apologized but she did say I was right. I don't think badly of her. We are still pretty amicable. I've no bad feelings against her but I'd never go back. Great girl, despite everything but nope. Commenter 3, she said she can't ring social services. But she had no trouble asking you to 1, come over and deal with the situation when she noticed there was a problem and 2, phone social services yourself. Look, I'm so pleased you stepped up for this kid, who clearly needs it, but when is his aunt going to act like an adult and stop making her ex-boyfriend do all her emotional labor? Reply, it probably is easier for someone who isn't family to do it. I'm not going to judge her too much. I'm glad she called me and that was probably a big step for her. Commenter 4, you absolutely did the right thing by calling. Even if it was just once, a child being hit like that is never acceptable. Hopefully, this leads to proper intervention. Commenter 5, and we know from the first post the way they treat their son is horrible and feels like emotional abuse to me. And now it is escalating to physical. You absolutely did the right thing. I hope you plan on having kids one day because I think you are going to be a wonderful father. Reply, it was the emotional stuff that really was the issue. The behaviors he was saying just weren't right. I go back and forth on kids. I probably won't but I'm not sure. Stories number 9. I, 22F, just found out my GF, 21F, has a strange fetish. My girlfriend has always been a fairly blunt person. She's sex positive and speaks her mind about whatever topic, regardless of if other people might find it embarrassing to talk about. She doesn't hide her phone from me, but I also have never wanted to go through her phone, and I'm the same with her. Recently, though, I was setting up YouTube on our new smart TV and she logged into her account so we could get videos recommended easily, and that's when I saw it. I had gone into the search bar and seen recommended searches of sneezing videos. They had descriptors in there that popped up in all of them, like rapid and fits. Now, my girlfriend had made jokes before about getting her porn from YouTube and I never really pried, because I assumed it was just a one-off joke or something about something obscure. She was obviously embarrassed and asked for the remote back, where she turned the TV off. She wasn't frantic or anything, but it was clear to me that she didn't want me to see that. She explained to me that she has a fetish for sneezing, not herself, but watching others do it. Men or women, she doesn't care, but she's bisexual to begin with. She told me that she's been this way since she was a little kid watching cartoons and not understanding why she was so interested in the episodes where characters would get sick. I just told her that I accept her interests and that I wouldn't have been grossed out if she had told me earlier. She told me that someone had dumped her before over this, and she was looking for a good time to tell me. I assured her that I'd never do that, and that was the conversation. It's been a few days now and I just don't really know how to continue with the information that I have. I'm not considering dumping her at all. But I just feel like it's a bit awkward. We've been dating for 4 years and she never told me this before. Plus, am I supposed to act on this at all? Or would that be creepy? I'm honestly kind of scared I'd do something wrong somehow, if I tried to act on it. She had mentioned there's forums and all sorts of stuff just for sneeze fetishists, so maybe I'm ridiculous but it almost feels like there's a community for it, and I'd be intruding. Maybe I should just swallow my pride and ask her what I should do. Do any of you have experience finding out that your partner was into something you weren't? Especially if it was something so out of left field. Did you do anything with that information, or did you think it was best to leave it be? Thank you for any advice you can give. Comments. I totally get why she wouldn't share. It just doesn't make it less awkward on my part, but I totally don't judge her for it at all. Honestly, this post is probably entirely just me being in my own head too. I hope you will find someone who accepts all of you as well. She told me it's like something in her brain is just wired differently, like how some people like feet and stuff. I don't know enough about the subject to really say, but I do believe her when she says it's a biological thing, lol. She told me that her ex who left her over this was assuming she got off on spectating total strangers or, God forbid, children being ill in public, but she's told me that's not the case. Sounds like we're in the same boat of partners with harmless but obscure kinks, lol. It's something I totally want to be open-minded about, and I think I am, given that I'm not grossed out or anything. I think I'll try to indulge her with it sometime soon and see how it goes. Notable comment. Sneeze on your girlfriend's tits then lick it off like the sick puppy you are. Hope this helps. Reply. I'll have you know I showed her this and her head damn near exploded. Update. Sorry if this is TMI or whatever, but you guys don't know me and we will never meet, so update below. So yesterday I took the majority of the comments' advice and I was just straight up with her. As chill as I could be, I asked her if she wanted to explore her kink with me, no pressure if not. She said yes, and added that she didn't expect me to be super into it, and she expected me to be awkward, but if it was too much we could stop. She busted out basically a tiny toolbox full of little things she had collected specifically for this kink. I didn't go through it myself or look too hard at what the box had, but she had a little thing of sneezing powder. She had told me that she had gotten all that stuff when she was trying to figure out if she was into sneezing herself, so it's mostly gone and used since she realized that wasn't the case. Omitting all the details of what followed, the night went well. She's right that I wasn't super into it myself, but it felt good to do those things with her, so I didn't mind it. I definitely feel like this is gonna be an every now and again type of thing, just to indulge her. Thank you to all the encouraging commenters, sharing their opinions and even experiences of having partners with uncommon fetishes or having those fetishes themselves. You guys helped me get over myself. Though I also blame you guys for the mild soreness in my face. Stories number 10. Aita for leaving my boyfriend at the bar after he told the waitress I was his sister, as a joke. Okay, so this happened last weekend and I'm still getting heat from my friends and even my mom for how I handled it. I, 21F, have been dating, 27M, for about 8 months. Things have been mostly Gria. He's cute, charming, a little cocky sometimes, but whatever. He has this habit of joking about not being serious with me when we're around other people. At a party once, he introduced me as a friend of a friend. Another time, he pretended he forgot my name in front of his college buddy. Every time I've brought it up, he's brushed it off as just a joke. Anyway, we were out with a few of his friends at this bar. It was pretty packed, and the waitress was definitely flirting with him, smiling a little too hard, touching his arm, that kind of thing. I wasn't too bothered at first. He can be friendly and doesn't always realize when someone's hitting on him. But then I got up to go to the bathroom, and when I came back, I heard the waitress laughing and saying, "Oh my God, seriously?" I asked what was so funny, and she said, "Your brother is hilarious." I looked at him, and he smirked and said, "Yeah, I told her you're my sister. Just messing with her." I didn't laugh. I just said, "Cool," grabbed my stuff, and walked out. I took an Uber home. He didn't follow me, but he texted saying I was being dramatic and that it was just a joke. I haven't seen him since. Now his friends are messaging me saying I embarrassed him, and even my mom said I should have just played along, instead of storming off like a child. She said guys do dumb stuff sometimes, and if I want to keep a man I need to pick my battles. I don't know. It just felt icky. Like he was trying to downplay our relationship or seem available for the attention. Stories number 11. Aita for being brutally honest with my friend about why women don't like him. My friend, who I'll refer to as Nathan, 25M, has had horrible luck with women for a very long time. He does have a bright future ahead of him though in regards to career. He's just graduated college last year and is currently in law school. However, he's been homeschooled his whole life, and does all his college courses and law school online, not in person, which leads me to this next point. He's never had a girlfriend, never been out on a successful date, is still a virgin, and low-key doesn't have many friends in general either, so his social skills are really underdeveloped. His only real socialization was with older people, parents, grandparents, fellow elder people, and me, met through family friends, so he was kind of raised very sheltered and doesn't have anything in common with anyone his own age, let alone women his own age. To top that all off, he's been nothing but super focused on school and being the best student he can be, so grades were his #1 priority during his developmental years, which there isn't anything wrong with that. However, he never took a break to live life or have any experiences in life. Nathan has had multiple girls his family introduced him to starting in 2021 all the way till now, and they've been trying to get them to give him a chance, but they end up just not liking him. I really hate to not be on his side and support him through his constant rejections from multiple girls, but it's gotten to a point where all these girls have the same complaints about him. Nathan's about 5 feet 2 inches and body-wise, very skinny petite built. He is also starting to bald, and has no bodily strength whatsoever either. He starts shaking just from holding a grocery bag. I hate to sound rude, but the truth is the truth. He is built like a little girl and has the hairline of a father of 3. While I understand height can't be changed and not necessarily his hair either, he can at least start working out and possibly add some weight muscle to give him some manly appearance, so I mentioned him doing this with me in general conversation with him. Whenever I go to the gym I tell him to come join me as a hobby or just to be my gym buddy. He declined numerous times, and the one time he did go, he struggled lifting a 10 pounds weight, so he stopped going. Okay, whatever. The way Nathan dresses is very grandpa vibes, tucks in shirt, dress pants, slacks and dress shirts on an ordinary day, etc. I asked him why doesn't he dress more comfortable every day, like a jogging outfit, a hoodie, some jeans sweats, and that he should wear sneakers instead of Freddie Benson dress shoes every day. He doesn't think anything's wrong with how he dresses, and he wants to look professional since he's gonna be an upcoming lawyer one day. I explained to him lawyers dress in suits and ties, not tucked in button-up flannels. And they also don't dress like that every day either, just when they're on the job. Sadly, he wasn't having it. Then it finally hit me, it's his damn personality, or the lack of it. See, I'm not trying to talk down on him, but if we're gonna go by objective reality, he has the personality of a brick. I've seen with my own 2 eyes how he talks to girls, how he acts on dates, etc. He cannot make a conversation to save his life. He is not funny either, and has zero charisma. He's a literal mute on all double dates and one-on-one dates he's been on, and it's so painfully awkward to watch. It's not like the girls aren't trying either. I've managed to get him dates, however they go nowhere due to his sheer lack of confidence, personality, or interest. When he talks to a woman, it's like all that he knows how to talk about is just school. And if it's not school, it's just radio silence. Or some shit that only boomers would understand or care about. I've also noticed how every time him and I go out somewhere, and I'm not sure if it's due to his size, he is scared and flinches whenever people walk past us, and he's always afraid that doing anything or going anywhere fun or interesting is too wild or dangerous for him. Aita Reddit concerts, bars, amusement parks, etc. So I did it. He whined and whined, kept being full of bitterness, complaints and negativity, talking bad about women and saying they never want good men and they only want players or good-looking tall guys. So I ended up telling him straight out that the reason he doesn't get anywhere with girls is because he's a dork. I told him I don't care if he's a dork since I'm not the one dating him, but that girls crave excitement, fun, or at least someone they can talk to about anything or have fun experiences with, etc. I told him he refuses to change anything physically about himself, and to top it all he won't even make himself at least interesting or fun to be around, and he is completely dull. That is why he can't pull or keep. He then got mad at me and accused me of picking on him and making fun of him, and that I'm holding his life circumstances against him, no public schooling socialization, to which I told him I am not, and I wish I was just saying nonsense. I am telling him the truth. I explained to him that his lack of social skills and appearance isn't necessarily his fault. However, if someone's giving you advice on what's stopping you from getting where you want to be and how to change it, you should take that advice and quit complaining and just thinking everyone should accept you as you are, because newsflash, we all have flaws. I told him that if he wants to get somewhere with girls and not have constant competition, then he needs to have something to make up for it, because there are plenty of lawyers and future lawyers in the world, and simply saying, I graduated college, isn't gonna make somebody have a connection or attraction to you. He told me I'm jealous that he's getting somewhere in his life academically, and that other girls are the problem for not seeing his worth and future success, and that if that's not enough for them to be with him, then they're the ones not good enough for him. I have not talked to him since then, and I refuse to associate with someone who thinks I'm jealous of them for giving them constructive criticism to a problem they constantly complain about. My dad is saying I'm right, but also that it's probably an insecurity on his part and I should apologize and try not to be too hard on him. I feel like I shouldn't be friends with somebody who can't ever see what's wrong with them or accept their flaws without crying about it and blaming others though, because that's just plain toxic to me. Aita, is there any chances that Nathan could be autistic? OOP, I'm NGL. I kind of had a feeling for a couple years that might have been his issue, especially since mental disabilities run in his family. His brother had Down syndrome and passed away. But even then, most autistic people are already kind of aware that they're a little off from others and simply just need to be told what to do, not to do in regards to social cues, and they grasp onto it quickly. Also, I've met many autistic people who actually had a personality, my friend absolutely refuses to accept that he's kind of a weirdo and that he has none at all, so I'm not sure where that's landing for him. Commenter 1. Holding his life circumstances against him, no public schooling socialization. NTA, like you said, it's not about his past, it's that he doesn't even want to attempt improving himself. Going to the gym doesn't even have to be about working out, it should be about learning to socialize. Maybe he needs to take an art class, yoga class, or something just so he can learn how to talk to people in general before he goes on dates. Reply, I've tried to introduce him to a lot of my friends, so he can try to have a friend group. He failed numerous times to get along with them due to lack of anything in common or once again, not being able to make a conversation or even say something funny to at least break the ice. He also thinks they're all reckless, dangerous, and bad influences, because they go to parties and drink here and there. They're literally 25 plus, so I'm not sure what's the big deal if they party or have a beer. Commenter 2, NTA. But as unrelated practical advice, I think asking him to do things he knows he would not enjoy like concerts and bars is not helpful. I would encourage him to find and pursue time in a hobby he has any sort of potential interest in. Because then you can talk to other people who also pursue that hobby, which immediately gives you something to talk about. Usually it's not too hard to find a club or group for any potential hobby that exists. This is really helpful for people who are bad at holding conversations. Reply, oh, I've tried that, the thing is he has no hobbies or interests. He's just school, family, and more school. I've recommended hobbies to him, like getting into cars, sports, even video games. All of it is unappealing to him so long as it's something fun and not something to do with being ultra serious, respectful and studying. Unfortunately. What kinds of things do Nathan like to talk about? Reply, he only likes to talk about boring things or things from hundreds of years ago. He'll talk about war, history facts, evolution, Viking days, etc. When I say boomer shit, I mean he doesn't watch anything but the news, reads newspapers, I didn't even know they still make them, and only talks about work, school, plays bingo, and gets along only with elders. Yes, those could be his hobbies, which I don't have an issue with or care that he's into them. It's just the point that the women I know would be into him and have these same interests, he's not into. He doesn't want a girl in his league. He wants the popular, beautiful, charming women with multiple better options than him, but they also have to be a virgin and have the demeanor of Mother Teresa at the same time. Then when they don't like him or have any of these same interests as him, or he finds out said woman doesn't exist, obviously, he gets all bitter and whiny. I don't know if he was raised on Disney princess movies or something, but dude doesn't want to live in reality. Commenter 3, the part about him being jumpy and scared whenever anyone passes by him is what stands out the most. Is it possible that he was abused? He was homeschooled, so no one would have seen anything, but a lot of times that is the reaction people develop when they have to walk on eggshells as a child in their home because they didn't know what to expect from parents and when they would get mad at something. Reply, no, he was not abused. He was a very loved child actually. Maybe neglected developmentally, but not abused. He's just paranoid of the outside world for some reason. Update, I just wanted to say that I got in contact with Nathan and apologized to him for being too harsh towards him. I tried explaining to him that even though I was harsh, I was just frustrated and trying to help him since I figured he'd needed someone to be blunt with him, but it wasn't my intention to hurt his feelings or anything. I made sure to express that I do care about him as a person and just wanted to guide him since he seemed lost in the world of dating. He didn't really accept my apology, told me that I'm on the path to being a broke, loser bum because I'm in a different field than him, and he has decided that everything I told him was just out of jealousy and that he thinks, and I quote, he is owed the highest form of respect for being a good man who is a future legal representative, and since I wasn't giving him that we should stop being friends. He also attempted to tell me that I should watch out from disrespecting him because in the future my life will be in his hands and he'll have the power to put me in jail. I assured him that jealousy and the highest form of respect definitely wasn't the case, lol, but if that's how he feels then so be it. At least I know I tried and did my part. I also wanted to answer some questions I seen people leave under the OG post for some clarity. Yes, he is 5 feet 2 inches. Yes, he is very skinny and small. Every physical attribute I've mentioned and described is real. Some people thought I was over-exaggerating or just straight up lying, but I am not. For those asking how is he doing college law school online, he was studying online classes at University of Florida. As for law school I know which one he is doing, but I won't say for privacy purposes. As for why he's been doing nothing but home online his whole life, it's because his parents are really overprotective of him. They were consistently worried about school shootings, kidnappers, etc., even to this day. For those asking if his family's religious, yes they are. However mine is too, and many others. This has not stopped anyone from growing into a different or better person, nor has it caused me or anyone I know, besides Nathan, to have a one-track mind. For those asking if he is autistic, he isn't diagnosed, so I don't want to say yes, but does he exhibit signs of severe autism? Yes, he does. The lack of social self-awareness was a clear sign for me, but I don't want to label him that if I'm wrong. For those who mentioned how he plans to be a lawyer with no talking social skills, I mentioned this to him during our last conversation. I told him forget about women, and politely explained that he also needs to improve his communication and social skills if he plans to be a lawyer because without that he isn't going to make it very far. He told me he's got it all figured out and as long as he gets that degree, that's all he needs to be ultra successful in law. I told him that's not how it works and you quite literally have to be slightly manipulative and convincing in order to make a name for yourself because what good is your degree if you suck at actually performing your job? He once again tried to tell me that I'm jealous and don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, after all that I've accepted that our friendship is over and I'm not sure where he's gonna land in the future, whether in regards to romantic relationships or his actual career, and I was also the only friend he had so I do wish him the best and hope life doesn't humble him to the point of no return. I don't think he's a bad person, just out of touch with reality, and I hope that doesn't backfire too harshly on him. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, in the original post you mentioned that he had a disabled sibling who died young. Your former friend isn't necessarily autistic. His parents coped with the pain of one child dying by isolating their remaining child for safety. They kept him away from life experiences and developing social skills by never putting him in situations where he was forced to learn to interact with other people. He's wildly ignorant as a result, and arrogant in his ignorance. This is developmentally normal for a young teenager. Just how old was he when his brother died? If you have the mental bandwidth, keep a line of communication open. If and when he realizes that he's been neglected, he may reach out to you. You don't have to put up with any bullshit, but if he's honestly gotten to that point, a kind word or three could be part of how he develops. Reply, he only died a year ago. Not long enough to shield Nathan from the world. They've been doing this. Commenter 2, he's going to get eaten alive in a firm, but that will be his lesson to learn. But I doubt he'll even manage to get a foot in the door. Commenter 3, I feel like Nathan's parents are to blame for his attitude towards OP. The stuff Nathan said about OP being jealous and that he will be an instant success as long as he gets a degree sound like a parent telling them child that everything will be okay and it's not your fault, everyone is just out to get you, that's all. Very sheltered by the way OP describes why he was homeschooled and does online college classes. Stories number 12. Aita for not entertaining a girl who thinks I got her pregnant from fingering. I, 21M, went on like 2 dates with this girl, 18F. First date was alright, but I wasn't really feeling her. I tried to end it with a kiss, and she told me she didn't know how to kiss. That turned into me trying to teach her how to kiss, and honestly, I should have known she was a bit too young for me right there. I decided to give it one more shot. Second date, we went to the movies. She decided she wanted to help me out. I finished, cleaned up, then helped her out. That was it, no sex, no anything beyond that. I thought it was mutual that we weren't super into each other because neither of us reached out after. A few days ago, she texts me saying her period is 3 weeks late and she's really scared. She even sent me articles saying pregnancy can happen from fingering if there's somehow sperm involved. I told her to calm down, that it's super unlikely. 1. My hands didn't even touch my sperm, and 2. Sperm cannot survive that long, and that's what I told her. I kinda left it at that. I thought it was pretty fucking funny that she actually think that she's pregnant. Now she keeps blowing up my phone. I've honestly started to ignore her. My friends think it's funny but also say it's kinda messed up I'm ignoring her while she's scared. I tried to reassure her I don't know what else I could do. People tell him to have her take a pregnancy test. Update. I took the most popular piece of advice from my original post, and that was to have her take a pregnancy. I decided to text her back. I apologized for ignoring her. We met up, I bought her 2 pregnancy tests. She took them inside the bathroom of the pharmacy we bought them from. I waited outside the bathroom and let her do her thing. After she was done she asked me to come inside and we waited for the results. Now, we're waiting for the results, it's been almost 10 minuets and the test is still blank. She's looking at the test wondering why there's no results, and then she's like, I think I took it wrong. I asked what she meant because how do you take a pregnancy test wrong, and she said she forgot to take the white cap off of the part you pee on I guess. She told me she didn't have to pee anymore, and she would just take them when she got home. I said okay, and I drove her home. 2 hours later she sent me pictures and just like I expected, they both came back negative. I responded with, oh okay, good, and she liked the message, so I think we're on the same page about not communicating anymore. So yeah. She's not pregnant. Stories number 13. Aita for pulling my financial support for my niece's wedding after she humiliated me over not having kids. Hey Reddit, throwaway because my sister and niece are pretty online and might recognize my name. I, 43M, have been married to my wife, 41F, for 18 years. We're child-free, but not by choice. We tried for years LIVF, adoption agencies, everything. It never worked out. We came to terms with it, and while it still stings sometimes, we've built a great life together. We travel, have a close circle of friends, and are pretty involved with our extended family. My niece Sarah, 24F, is my sister's daughter. I've always had a soft spot for her, helped her with college apps, bought her first car, used Honda, not flashy, and over the past year I offered to pay for part of her upcoming wedding. Not the whole thing, but about $10,000 toward the venue, which she and her fiancé were super grateful for at the time. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, my wife and I were at a family barbecue, and I overheard Sarah talking with her bridesmaids and a couple of cousins. They didn't know I could hear them. Someone made a joke about having kids soon after marriage, and Sarah said something like, "Well, we better not take advice from Uncle Tom unless we want to end up bitter and childless." Cue laughter. Then she added, "I mean, all they do is drink wine and post vacation pics like they're still in college." I just froze. It was like getting punched. I left quietly with my wife, who saw the whole thing on my face and didn't even ask. The next day, I texted Sarah, "Hey. I heard what you said at the barbecue. It hurt more than I can explain. I've decided to step back from contributing to your wedding. I wish you and your fiancé the best, but I won't be attending. Take care." She didn't reply, but my sister called me screaming within the hour. Said I was punishing her daughter for a joke and holding money over her head. My mom got involved too, telling me I'm overreacting and being dramatic, and that young people say dumb things. Some cousins think Sarah was way out of line, but others are saying I should have talked to her first, not just cut off support. Sarah has since made some vague apology via text, "Sorry if I hurt your feelings," but hasn't really owned it. I don't know. I didn't expect it to blow up this much, but I'm also not sure I was wrong to set a boundary. So, Aita. Stories number 14. Neighbor drives through my yard and dumps their garbage on my property. I've been dealing with some bad neighbors for 3 years now. I thought I'd share my story both for entertainment value but also ask, what would you do differently in my situation? The context behind the neighbors: an old man lives there who had a wife that passed away before I moved in. Now some younger people from the projects, who aren't related to him, take advantage of him and live with him rent-free. How they met, I don't know. Despite the less than reputable characters that live with him, the old man is the biggest thorn in my side. I wish I could post pictures in this subreddit, but I'll just have to describe it. My house is situated further back from the road than theirs. I can see into their backyard from my front door. The old man likes to drive into his yard and pull up to his front door to unload groceries so he doesn't have to walk as far to take them in the house. I understand that part. The problem is, he pulls down my driveway, then across my yard to get to his front door. It kills my grass and leaves ruts in the yard. The next time I saw him outside, I asked him to stop driving in my yard and he said he would, but he kept doing it. A second time I asked him to stop, and again it didn't stop. After the third I was angry, so I went to his house and pounded on the door but nobody answered. I went home, wrote an angry note, and package taped it to his door threatening to call the police if it happened again. Surprise, it happened again. So after the fourth time it happened I went to the police, and the police told him to stop and he did. To this day he hasn't driven in my yard, thank goodness. But the story doesn't end here. After my trouble with them I put Ring cameras up on my property, and last month my cameras caught something baffling. He dumped a big box TV on my property. I have a huge yard and a lot of land, I even own some woods. He has a fenced-in yard and also owns some woods. He rode his lawn mower into my front yard, down my side yard and into my backyard all the way to my woods, and dumped a box TV back there. It wasn't even 3 feet into the woods. You know, rather than leave it by the curb for the garbage company to recycle for free, he had to get rid of it on my property. The audacity. So naturally I took a picture of the TV and pulled the recordings from my cameras and took it to the police. The police are charging him with littering and forcing him to remove the TV and dispose of it properly, as well as trespassing him from my property. He'll be hit with criminal mischief if he sets even a foot on my property again. There was one morning last year where I woke up to go to work in the morning, and there were like 10 local police cars and state cops all outside his house. Here the people from the projects that were living with him were dealing drugs out of his house and they were doing a bust on them. Everyone but the old man was arrested, and they just got let out of jail this month and are back in the house. I really just need to move. It's a shame because I live in such a nice neighborhood. It's the reason I even picked the house, the location. I've talked to my other neighbors about the bad neighbors and they said everything was fine before the old man's wife died. But now he almost seems like he has dementia and is being taken advantage of by some bad people. And now I have drug dealers and trespassers right next door. FML. Update. About a week ago I posted talking about my issues with my neighbor driving through my yard in the past and how I had the police tell them to stop, and how more recently my neighbor dumped a large box TV on my property, caught on my cameras and reported to the police. Yesterday, my camera caught my neighbor leaving a handwritten note on my door that I read when I got home from work, and I also heard from the police regarding the TV. I'll start with the conversation I had with the police and leeway into the note he left on my door. The police had been trying to reach my neighbor by phone for the last week, and had made multiple visits to their house to tell him to remove the TV, but he wasn't answering his phone or the door. So the officers on duty have been making routine visits on our street to see if they could catch him outside, and they finally did. They told him he had to remove the TV and he was livid, naturally. He tried to claim that the property wasn't mine and was his. It's mine, not sure why he thinks otherwise considering a fence separates our properties, and that he could do what he wants. The officers said whether it was mine or his was irrelevant, as littering is littering and you can't dispose of electric waste by dropping it in the woods and pretending it isn't there. So they told him he had to dispose of it properly, and they told me if the TV isn't gone in 3 to 4 days to call them again and they're going to give him a citation for it. So that was yesterday that this conversation happened between them. Around lunchtime was when my Ring camera caught him leaving the note. The note said along the lines of, "I am giving you until June 1st to trim branches of a tree on your property that are dropping leaves and twigs into my property, or I'm filing a civil suit against you. I am tired of picking up the sticks and leaves dropped on my yard by your tree." So naturally the first thing I did was look up my state and local laws, and also went to the police station to notify the officers that this happened so they were aware of it and could make a report. The officers at the station told me not to worry about it, they know what he's like and he wouldn't actually go through with it. He's just mad that I got him in trouble and is taking it out on me with any excuse he can come up with, and the officers told me it's not my responsibility to take care of it. Our state and local laws state that it's not the responsibility of the owner to trim branches that protrude over property line, but that property owner that it is protruding on is allowed to cut back the branches back off of their property line. Whether you agree with that or not is up to you, but that's the law that I both read and that the police department informed me of. But here's the thing, the tree is healthy and it's not dropping large branches or anything of the sort, nor does it go over anything that would cause damage to his property. Even if it did, insurance takes care of that, it's not my responsibility. He's obviously butthurt about me getting him in trouble these last few months and is reaching at anything he possibly can to cause trouble for me like I have for him. Unfortunately I'm an upstanding citizen and he has no grounds to get me in trouble with anything. Also our police department and local government despises him and his residents so much that even if this somehow does go to court, his word is nothing compared to mine. So, I'm calling his bluff and ignoring him. I know him well enough at this point too, I'm not giving him the attention he wants. If he would have been kind about the situation and had a respectful conversation with me about the tree I would have been a lot more considerate. But he didn't even talk to me about it. Now that he thinks he can threaten me, he can forget it. The amount he's inconvenienced me severely outweighs leaves falling from my tree into his yard. Maybe when he stops driving across my yard and dumping garbage on my property and trespassing, I'll think about whether or not to help him. I can't believe there's people on this planet so selfish. See my last post for the details on how these people are the scum of our community. Crack-dealing sociopaths in the one garbage house of our nice neighborhood. I'm really disappointed things have ended up this way because the whole reason I even got the house was because of the neighborhood, but I had to pick the one place next door to the crack dealers and trespassers. Again, FML. I'm going to start looking for a new place to live. I'm so thankful the police has been so helpful and understanding of the situation, but it seems no matter how many times I send them and no matter how willing they are to cause trouble for me, this needless drama won't end until they're out of that house or I just leave. I keep to myself. I'm a single, quiet guy who minds his own business in his own house. I just want to be left alone. It's time to start looking elsewhere, I think. Anyways, I hope my strife has been entertaining. I'll probably have another update after the first week of June regarding all of this. Would you have done anything differently? Let me know if you have any advice. Thanks. Final update. This will be my final update regarding what's been going on, unless anything substantial happens in the future. I don't think anything else is going to come of this particular situation, but some things have happened between now and my last post. Here's what's happened. In my last posts I told the story of my recent strife with my neighbor, an old man who keeps trespassing on my property and drove through my yard on multiple occasions, only stopping after the police made him do so. He then trespassed again by dumping a large box TV in my woods in my backyard. After telling the police about the TV and after they confronted him and told him to remove it, he left a note on my door threatening legal action for a tree that's dropping leaves and twigs in his yard, and if I didn't take care of it by June 1st, he'd be suing me. For the finer details where I went more in depth about it, see my last post from about a week and a half ago from the link above. As for the update, it's now June 3rd and naturally I've done nothing about the tree. Countless conversations with other people, including the police, as well as my own research tell me I'm not responsible. I haven't heard from the neighbor, haven't heard from anybody on his behalf, haven't gotten any more notes on my door or in my mailbox or anything of the sort. It was just as we suspected, all bark no bite. He was mad about me getting him in trouble and tried to intimidate me and it didn't work. He's since removed the TV. Where he put it I'm not sure, I never saw it on the curb for the garbage or anything, for all I know he could have just threw it in his own woods, but I don't care enough to attempt to find out. It's off my property and none of my business anymore as a result. I also double-checked with the police to be sure that he was trespassed for good, and they assured me he was and him removing the TV from my property was the last time he or anybody in that house was permitted from stepping foot on it, and he understood this. As many commenters suggested, I went down to our local human services building in our township and spoke to somebody in the Office of Aging. It's our version of Adult Protective Services. I spent an hour at their office and made a full report on the whole situation to them, the old man and his seemingly declined mental state and physical state, the types of people living with him. I gave them all the juicy details, from the footage of him struggling to climb 2 stairs onto my porch to leave the note showcasing his physical state, to another time where he chased a squirrel on his lawn mower into my yard showcasing his mental state. I even showed them the footage I had from the raid on his house where the people that were living with them were, temporarily, arrested for dealing crack out of his house. I gave them the names of the people living with him, given to me by my buddy in the police department who has been dealing with them for me. I left no detail out, no stone unturned. The woman I spoke with submitted the report to their investigation unit, but she said I wouldn't get an update regarding the situation. I'm only going to hear from anybody if they ask for more information from me. Only time will tell if this will do any good not only for myself, but for the old man too. To summarize, the TV is off my property, they're officially trespassed, their legal action threats were bluffs, and they haven't driven on my yard since. I feel better about everything and I'm hoping that this is the last I have to deal with for the foreseeable future, but only time will tell. Of course should anything else happen I'll be quick to tell it here, but for now this will be the last time I post regarding this situation. I also wanted to thank everybody for the suggestions made on my previous posts. I wouldn't have thought to make a report with the Office of Aging if it wasn't for commenters. Here's hoping he gets the help he needs and I get the peace and quiet I've been longing for. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Having dealt with multiple agencies, such as the one you spilled your story out to, it has now entered a black hole, likely never to be seen again. At least you've done your part. Reply. I'm not expecting anything to come of it either. Even if they investigate it, the man is just cognizant enough that he'll probably still be able to rationalize his occupant's existence. Either way, it was the right thing to do. Commenter. That's not the way dementia works. One thing to be aware of is that the disease causes people to A. Forget stuff, and B. Replace impulse, doing stuff on purpose, with habit, doing what one has always done. I don't know, but this may be why e.g. he wasn't stopping the front door route, habit, or removing the TV, forgetting stuff. I could go on, but I'd assume this guy is almost certainly being taken advantage of, so keep bugging the police for patrols and APS for self-care issues. Take it from me, having trouble climbing 2 stairs is well into frail territory, if not 100% fall risk. Reply. When he dumped the TV, he had the one guy who lives with him help him. He towed the TV to the back of my yard on his lawn mower, then had the young guy put it there. I should have mentioned this, but even if he did forget, the young guy knew it was there too. He didn't do it alone. I more or less meant he seems to be in the early stages of it, but I see where you're coming from. I'm aware of how dementia works. I worked in an assisted living facility in my teens where half the patients there had it. It's why I've emphasized that not only for my sake, but especially for his sake I hope he gets the help he needs. I'm not expecting my report to get anywhere for him though. New update. Neighbor paid me a visit to threaten legal action against me again. My neighbor previously left a note on my door telling me I needed to either cut down a tree on my property, or trim the branches back so it stops dropping leaves on his yard. He left the note in the middle of May, and said he was giving me until June 1st to do something about it or he would be filing a civil suit. Naturally I didn't do anything about it. June 3rd I made a post giving an update on the situation, and how he didn't do anything and calling his bluff was the right thing to do. Here's the link to the post, which also links to all the previous posts with all my issues I've had with him, like him driving on my lawn and dumping garbage on my property. Well, last night at about 5 p.m., he paid me a visit. I didn't answer the door, but I have a Ring camera and he knows it records, so he left me a message. He said along the lines of, well, since you don't want to come to the door, you need to take care of the tree, I'm tired of the stuff landing in my yard. I know you can see me, I know you can hear me. I'm giving you 2 weeks, then I'm going to the magistrate. Then he left. He's been trespassed from my property, so he violated the trespass. I sent the footage from my Ring camera to the officer that's been dealing with him on my behalf, the one that trespassed him. I'm awaiting a response for now. I'm not doing anything about the tree. I've stated in my previous post that our state and local laws refer to what he's complaining about as shedding, and the landowner that the tree resides on can't be held responsible for leaves or twigs that fall from it onto another person's property. It's standard tree law. Even if it was larger branches that were damaging his house or land, which it's not, insurance handles that, and it's still not my responsibility. This conclusion is not only from my own research, but also what our police department and a lawyer I spoke to told me. So he has no grounds. If he tries to take it to court, they'd laugh at him. That's the thing though, he won't take it to court. He's already proven to me he won't do shit. He gave me a week and a half before to take care of it and I didn't. It's been almost 2 weeks since the deadline he gave me, and all he did was extend his deadline after 2 weeks of me not complying. I'm really not worried at all, but I thought I'd share the experience for the entertainment and for the update for those interested in the situation from my past dealings with him. I really don't want there to be a reason to post any more updates, but I will continue to post them if the opportunity arises. Update. Just 1 day after my last post, I had a confrontation with my neighbor outside. Before anybody gets too excited, nothing physical happened. Just a short exchange of words. I had to wait so long to make an update because I've been waiting to hear back from the police, and after 8 days of waiting and emails, I finally got a response from the police and enough information to warrant an update. If you've seen my last posts, you can skip the next paragraph. To summarize what was mentioned in my last posts, I previously got my neighbor in trouble for 2 things he had been doing to my inconvenience. First, he was driving on my lawn, killing my grass and leaving ruts in the ground. After asking him 3 times to stop, I sent the police over to tell him to stop, and thankfully since then he hasn't done it again. Second, he dumped a big box TV in my backyard. After a month and a half of deliberation with the police, they finally made him remove the TV and I asked them to formally trespass him while they were at it too, so that he couldn't come onto my property anymore. The very same day he was trespassed, he came to my house and left a note at my door. The note said that he was giving me a deadline to cut down or cut back a tree on my property that was dropping leaves on his yard, or he would file a civil suit against me. After his deadline came and went and I naturally didn't do anything about the tree, 10 days later he came to my door and left a message to my Ring camera stating he was giving me another 2 weeks to deal with the tree or he was going to the magistrate. He's grasping at whatever excuse he can muster to get me in trouble because I've gotten him in trouble, but he holds no grounds and I'm an upstanding citizen with nothing for him to get me in trouble with. That's everything up to now. Here's what's happened since my last post. I was out cutting my grass last Thursday, and after I was nearly finished and started weed whacking my backyard, he rode his lawn mower onto my property once again. Keep in mind, he has a fence, so it's not like he stayed in his yard and yelled to me. He deliberately went out of his fenced yard, into my front yard and down my side yard into my backyard. My plan if he ever did confront me was to simply ignore him, because of the type of person he is. I knew he just wants the drama and attention. It didn't entirely go that way. He rode over to me and said, "Hey, my name," and I ignored him at first. Then he gave me the "come here" finger gesture, and that kind of pissed me off. So here's what I said. "No, I'm not talking to you. You've been trespassed, and you need to go home," is all I said. Keep in mind, his lawn mower was running the whole time and I had noise-canceling headphones in, but I know I said it loud enough for him to hear me. But I didn't hear what he said back. I'm sure he just repeated what he's been saying to me about the tree because he pointed at it. I didn't want to hear what he had to say anyways. He quickly retreated back off of my property saying he was going to the magistrate. So after I finished my weed whacking, I pulled the video from my backyard camera and went right down to the police station to report the confrontation, but nobody was available to talk to me due to an incident that was going on the same day. So, I emailed the officer I've been dealing with and CC'd every other officer I had the email of and sent the video to him, stating this is the 3rd time he's trespassed since being formally trespassed, and I need something to be done about it because it feels like harassment at this point. I immediately got an email back saying they would address it, and that they would contact me the next day, Friday. Friday came and went, and I never heard from anybody. Then the whole weekend passed. Then Monday, nothing. So Tuesday, I emailed the officer again saying that I was just checking in, as they said they'd talk to me by last Friday and it was now Tuesday with no update. I still hadn't heard anything until right now, today. I got a call from the officer which I couldn't answer at the time, and he left me a voicemail. I'm going to copy and paste the voicemail transcription so you can read it for yourself. Here it is. Hi, my name, it's Officer, his name. I just wanted to get back in touch with you and provide you an update in regards to your complaint about your neighbor there. Myself and other officer, did go up there this past weekend. It would have been on Saturday. We talked to my neighbor, in regards to the consistent trespass. Also we informed him that we will be filing a criminal charge, for defiant trespass against him. I don't think I'll need you to testify for that in court because I do have the videos that you sent me. However, if that changes, I can give you a call and let you know. If he's on your property any further going forward, please do let us know. And let us know if he persists with this silly tree business. He was kind of receptive to the information and maybe seemed to get a reality check. If you have any problems at all though, just give us a call. Thank you, bye. I haven't spoken to the officer, but if I do have to testify in court I'll be more than happy to. He said that my neighbor seemed to have a reality check, so I'm really hoping this is the last I have to deal with him, but I'm not expecting that to be the case. Either way, I'm feeling really good about this. I'll keep my doors locked and my eyes on the back of my head, though. The police assured me when they raided his house last year there were no weapons and that nobody in the house has a violent history, but you can never be too safe. I haven't heard from him, anybody on his behalf, or anybody else since the confrontation. Again, thanks to everybody for the suggestions on what to and how to deal with the situation. I'm still a first-time homeowner so this is all new to me. I've become intimately familiar with tree law and trespass law now because of this, for better or for worse. Of course, should anything else happen I'll be quick to make an update post here. Thanks for your time. Edit, it's a misdemeanor in our state, not a felony. My mistake. Regardless, maximum penalty is 1 year in prison and a $2,500 fine. Stories number 15. Bride suggests wearing our own wedding dresses as guests. I have my wedding dress, and it fits. It's comfy and perfect for an outdoor summer event. I don't know what else I would wear really as I don't have a very limited, and worn, wardrobe aside from this and one other dress that was for a black tie event. I worry I would be the only one to do this and get looks from the, very large, crowd, so it kinda feels like a trap, but it's also literally in the wedding website so I kinda wanna do it to honor the request as also it's the comfiest public-facing garment I own. My husband and the groom have been friends for 25 plus years. I have never met bride or groom as they live quite far so I can't contact them to ask if they're sure or get photo approval, but I could have my husband double check with the groom. I dunno I want to but I worry people could be kinda brutal about it if I do. Am I too in my head about this? My friends say I should just do it and if anyone has a problem with it, that's their issue not mine. What do you guys think? OOP in wedding dress. Text message. Comments. Commenter 1. If the bride is suggesting it and you want an excuse to wear it again then do it. All the guests will have read the same instructions as you and therefore will understand. It's quite clear the bride isn't going to be wearing a typical white wedding dress so you'll be fine. Commenter. What a cracker of a wedding this would be. Celebrating and fun. Commenter 2. I want an invite to this wedding. Sounds awesome. Wear your dress. There will definitely be other women that do. I would love to wear my dress again. The bride's outfit will be incredible I bet. Please share it with us, with her permission obviously. Commenter 3. Right? It sounds charming. And what a refreshing change from the, OMG there's a speck of white. Drama. The bride sounds awesome. Reply, they seem like such a cool couple and I am really looking forward to finally meeting them. We live 4.5 hours away from each other but they follow my husband's and my lil business on Instagram and seem to always be rooting us on from a distance. Update. Okay, you guys asked for an update after my post nearly broke the sub, lol, so here it is. I wore my wedding dress to the solstice wedding in Devon. Thanks to this sub for allaying my severe social anxiety around the decision. I styled it like so with pops of green, added some green and brown beaded necklaces, rocked some camel-colored flats and my camel-colored bag. It all vibed with the lush greens of the farm, its woodlands, and the hilly Devon landscape. I definitely dressed it down a bit but that really turned out not to be necessary as I was one of at least a dozen others wearing a wedding dress. This included divorcees that were still happy to re-wear their gowns, and even a couple of men. Some accessorized very bridal while others dressed it down a bit like I did. One wore a flower crown as commenter suggested I should do. Some guests wore shorts and t-shirts, some wore medieval dress and looked like they walked straight out of a Renaissance festival. There were also corsets, fishnets, and goat horns, and everything in between. It was very come as you are and everyone came as their authentic selves to create a really special event. There was much music and merrymaking, including by the talented bride, and the whole event felt like hanging out for an evening in the happiest chapter of a fairy tale. Absolutely magical. The bride wore a black and white gown, with black floral appliques on the bodice spreading down onto the ruffled skirt. After the ceremony and first sets of performances, she changed into a smart and elegant white silk pantsuit. Nothing too wildly untraditional, but unique and her own style. Bride and groom were amused and surprised at the amount of attention my original post got, and we got quite a kick out of sharing the response with them. Even the more unhinged comments, like the person that said how inconsiderate the bride is for this dress code BC, they paid good money to have their dress cleaned and preserved professionally, lol. She said, and you want to, nobody is forcing you to crack open the hermetically sealed dress vault if you don't want to, Karen. They approved me posting an update, but TBH, I was so busy enjoying the party and living in the moment that I didn't get much in the way of photos. That said, I don't have much to post here, but they assured me they will share a Google Drive link with photos from the photographers and participants, so I'll grab a selection of those and post them in a follow-up comment on this post when we get our hands on them. The bride said when the dress code came out, her friends joked that it was very much like her to get others wearing white to take the heat off of her and help her blend in with the crowd a bit better so all eyes weren't on her. However, her thinking was that wedding dresses are fun, beautiful, joyous and unique and should get worn for happy and beautiful celebrations. It's sad to let them sit never to be worn again. I love her very unserious, her word not mine, approach to it all. Thanks again for all the advice and the laughs. OOP in wedding dress. Comments. Commenter 1. Never has a Reddit post made me want to be friends with someone more than I do with this couple. Lucky you, OP, sounds like a blast. Reply, I am so grateful for my new friends. So grateful I got to be part of such an incredibly cool day. Commenter 2. And your dress looked beautiful. Beautiful dress for a beautiful day celebrating beautiful people, so wonderful to read about. Commenter 3. Love it. You look gorgeous and it sounds like the day was exactly what she wanted. I would be so flattered if my friends drug out their wedding dress for me. Or their horns and fishnets. I would probably cry from joy. She sounds like a treasure. Reply, I literally used that exact word and told her she is a treasure as we were hugging goodbye the next morning. You are 100% correct. Stories number 16. Aita for telling my sister it's her fault she's a single mom and to stop expecting me to care more about her kids than she does. I have a twin sister, 25F, and I've been helping her with her kids for the past 6 years. She has 3 kids and is a single mom. Her kid's father is not involved at all and never has been, but she still keeps having kids with him. I've asked for so many times why she keeps sleeping with him when he's a deadbeat, but she would get angry and say I'm victim blaming her since it's not her fault he's a deadbeat. Me and my mom and younger siblings have stepped up to help my sister with her kids. It's gotten harder with her youngest toddler being diagnosed with autism and has a lot of outbursts and special requirements. My mom and I have asked my sister for years to put her kid's dad on child support, but she complains she doesn't know how to spell his last name and he has 2 last names so they can't find him. Last month my sister announced she was pregnant again. Mind you, we live in a 4-bedroom house, my mom and 2 little sisters share a room, I have my own room. My sister shares a room with her toddler and her 2 sons have their own room, so all 4 rooms are occupied. She told me that her toddler would have to move in with me since her room isn't big enough for 3 people. She also hid the pregnancy until her 2nd trimester. My mom and I broke down in frustration. I asked her who the father is and she said her children's dad. My mom started screaming at her saying she's disgusting for sleeping with a man that doesn't take care of his kids. Mind you, my sister's ex has a girlfriend and my sister always insults her for dating a deadbeat but keeps sleeping with him. I just graduated with my master's and started a new job the week before she announced her pregnant and planned to live at home for 1 more year to save before moving out. I officially reached a breaking point and signed a lease to move out of my mom's house in with my friend after her roommate moved on July 1st. I didn't plan to tell my sister immediately because I knew she would freak out. She caught me packing yesterday and asked if I'm going on a trip since she needs me to babysit this weekend. I said no, that I'm moving next week. She started freaking out asking where and I didn't go into detail. She got upset saying I can't leave, she needs me and my mom and we're her kid support system. I told her that it's not been by choice and while our mom is her mom, I'm not her mom and have no obligation to help her, plus I'll be giving an extra room for her and her kids. She tried to pull the identical twin DNA they're yours too BS, but I didn't care. I got upset with her constant crying for me to stay and told her that she expects me to parent her kids more than their own father and she should be ashamed to continue sleeping with him after he abandoned her alone with the first child, let alone having 3 more. That man has literally never met his kids. She called me an asshole for saying it's her fault she's a single mom and I'm victim blaming. Aita. I don't blame her for being a single mom, but I do blame her for having kids continuously with a man that is a deadbeat. She said even if she keeps sleeping with him without him taking care of their kids, it's still his fault. I told her that no good mother would keep sleeping with her kid's dad after he abandoned them and to stop expecting me to care more about her kids than her. Stories number 17. AIO husband uninvited me from a family cruise and I have become quiet and isolated. Came home one day to find younger son, Mac, planning a cruise with dad, Bill. I was informed that my husband, my younger son, my SIL, and her adult sons were going. I was told my older son had already declined the trip I had just found out about. I was included in the planning at that time as if I was going. A week later on a drive I was answering a question my SIL had texted about shirt sizes for matching shirts. My husband said, "Don't answer that." Then my husband mentioned his concern about our garden and dogs being taken care of while we were gone. He was mainly concerned that our 22-year-old and his fiancée would sleep late and the dogs wouldn't go out in time. I said I would consider staying home if the only way he could enjoy the cruise with our 19-year-old son, his sister, and her kids was if he didn't have to worry about the dogs and garden, but that I wanted to go and I thought everything would be fine. Our 22-year-old son and his fiancée are capable of keeping all of the above alive. I told him I would work on backup or alternate care for the pets and garden. Later that day, I walked in on Mac and Bill buying their tickets. I asked why I wasn't being included and Mac said, "Dad, Bill said that you didn't want to go." No, I did not. Then, my son Mac kept insisting my husband had misunderstood me, with me insisting there was no misunderstanding and that I was shocked he was booking the cruise without me. I said that I wanted to go but not if he didn't want me there, which was unthinkable. The next day I talked to my good friend Sarah about my dilemma. She immediately said she could watch the dogs and water the garden. She said I needed a vacation more than anyone she knew. I told my husband excitedly and the next day we went on another drive. This time, he said he would feel better if Sarah could watch the dogs in her home, which she agreed to do the next day. I walked in that evening and heard him outside on the deck inviting his friend Jack. He still hasn't mentioned that detail to me. I told him I wanted to go and he was like, "Oh yeah, that might work." The next day after doing some research and thinking everything through I told him I definitely wanted to go. I didn't want to miss seeing Mac have fun and I really needed some fun myself. Plus, I told him I thought it would be good for us as a couple to have a fun trip and it could be damaging to our relationship if I was excluded. Then, I informed him it would be cheaper if I went because it could be our newly formed LLC directors meeting. A win-win. Then he looked at me and literally said, "There will be other trips we can write off." Meaning, "You're not going on this trip." I said, "Oh, you just don't want me to go." He said I never said that, and since then we haven't talked much. I am so upset that I can't be myself around him. I have retreated to the loft where I'm just being quiet. He just left to go to his favorite bar alone because I didn't want to go. He's getting frustrated by me isolating myself. I can't hear it in his voice, but it's just too painful to be around him right now. AIO, should I have a still upper lip and deal with the disappointment, or is he just not that into me and treating me like a doormat? We've been married for 28 years. Update, thank you for the support. So many of the comments mirror my thoughts. I thought it was important to mention that my SIL's kids are boys 20 to 25 and my SIL really likes to drink and have a good time. The plan is for everyone in the group of 7 to get the $500 13 alcoholic drink package. Best case scenario, everyone wants to party hard and they know I don't drink like that. Worst case scenario, my husband doesn't love me and wants to have a good time with the people he cares about. Update 2, my husband doesn't know that I know he invited Jack. I overheard him talking outside and he has no idea I know. Bill and Jack have been friends since grade school and have been best friends for 30 years. Jack will sometimes send photos of the girls he is hooking up with, so I don't think he is gay. Jack has always been like a brother family member. He has been single his whole life. Update 3, SIL planned the trip, told my husband, he invited both sons, then when one declined I was invited. It may have started as a siblings with sons trip, but one of her sons invited ASO, then I was invited, then uninvited, then Jack was invited. SIL visited last year and said unflattering things about me to both and their SOs. In the past she has been so loving to me to my face, but has done some hurtful things. Once she took my husband to a bar until 3 a.m. and wouldn't let him pick up the phone when I called because I would have made them come home. No, I just wanted to make sure they weren't in trouble or lying dead or injured somewhere. Once when I was pregnant she pre-arranged a meeting between he and his ex-girlfriend outside of her house during a party while she chatted with me inside the house, keeping me busy. SIL was wild in her younger days but is pretty typical with her drinking now. Update 4, I read the comments and worked on my grammar, transitions, and spacing. Hope it's more readable now and thanks again for the input. Some comments are tough to read but I appreciate the honesty. Stories number 18. Aita for keep sharing my language and culture with my stepson despite his mom's objections. I have been with my 32F husband, 39, for about 7 years. He has a son from a former relationship, 9, and we didn't even know he even existed until about 5 years ago when his ex, 40, contacted him demanding child support. She admits the only reason she even let him know about the kid was because she found out we were engaged and she wanted to rain on his parade. After a lot of back and forward and legal shenanigans we got sort of 50-50, first was therapy, visitation, etc. but we are now at 50-50. Anyway, I come from Latin America and my stepson is really fascinated by many of the cultural things and the language. He has met my parents on their last visit, and he is really a lovely, bright and curious kid. He started catching up with some of the words and now we speak Spanish on a daily basis when he is with us. His mom didn't have an issue until he started to ask if he can come to my country next time we visit. We told him we gotta discuss it amongst the adults but he is very interested. We got no issue, my family has said that he is more than welcome, I come from blended fam, and we would of course cover all the costs. She really dislikes the idea, but not because of the travel or anything else but because she believes we, are using money to turn him against her. There are many issues between them already because he thinks she is a liar for not telling him about his dad and yeah, it's hard sometimes. But we talk a lot, son and I, about having blending families and understanding parents. Anyway, she told me I had to stop encouraging sharing the language and the culture in my house when he is with us and speak the home country language or English. I said no. I have been very passive through the whole thing, since the beginning, but I am exhausted of her demands. I understand she is his mom but I see no harm on the kid speaking Spanish like a native plus the other two he does and I see no issue with him traveling abroad and having more cultural connections. Hell, I even offered to pay for her to come along with her husband. She says I am a very big snobbish asshole and she is gonna see how to keep the kid away from me. Not possible. Her husband says I should be more understanding and not step on her toes when the kid already is not her biggest fan. My husband says he just wants the best for the kid and sees no wrong with him learning and traveling. I would like an outside impartial perspective about it. Update. I want to thank all the nice messages, the mean messages, and the realistic messages. Anyway, my stepson is now staying most of the time with us. We had no battle or issue, it is just what we decided after a pre-opera heart-to-heart conversation between moms. When the time comes where there is a possibility to go to my country we will discuss it again but at the moment it is a yes. The heart-to-heart was a very emotional complex talk but I felt it had to happen. She is after all part of my life forever and I want her to know she is the mommy no matter what. I saw a completely different side of her and I know it is not a magic wand but I have noticed the changes. I am pregnant, I know I should not say so early, I was already when I made my first post but didn't even know, but we are all so positive, and almost on the clear line. Even my son's mom. Everybody has taken it as a celebration and the only time we had issue was when we talked bedrooms at our flat because my son thought he had to give his super nice one for my true baby section as he called it. But we assured him his bedroom is forever his unless we move. My parents will be arriving in the next months and asked if they can bring extra gifts to my son so it is an easier transition and his mom said yes. It seems somehow me having a baby has made her realized we are so linked or I dunno, maybe it was my husband saying he would not allow more disrespect lol. My parents also asked if it was okay to bring gifts for her kid and she said yes as well. My mom is the happiest person now because she is in full shopping mode lol. She has been very civil and even nice, and in response she has gained a better relationship with our son. I am convinced he is smart enough to orchestrate all of it, but I have mommy baby brain. We have agreed to raise them all as together as possible, her kids, our kid. I said I can contribute to the education fund for all kids if she allows me. She said yes on the condition they all go to the same school ________. I want my kids in Spanish Kita, she wants hers in normal Kita _______. I thought we would have WW2 again but her husband told her my kids will speak Spanish no matter what she wants and it is a useful language so all kids in our tribe should speak Spanish. And she agreed, I almost fainted. Now we decided to divide care after daycare and Kitas, kindergarten, and I will speak to the kids in Spanish so they are naturals. My son is the happiest because now he feels all his families are in sync and he can just chill and it makes me extremely happy. In addition, she said my son can come with us if he wants but we need to let her know at least a year in advance and she is doing the same with us which I find reasonable. Update. I know Noon might see this but I got a couple of messages people found it heartwarming, some not exactly, so, we have little announcements and clarifications. She, son's mom, has always been in therapy. It was determined when this all started back in the day. She was never outright cruel or super mean. It was just that she was not nice to me or my relationship until now that she tries. She gets a say as much as I get a say in education. I know is weird, but I was raised in some sort of communal weird experience and we all excel in our areas. I would never do anything to put distance between my son and his siblings. I am trying to instate that they are his siblings, and for the one he already has it's the way. If he doesn't like it I will drop it, but he seems very receptive to the mixed family. She has issues that have come from other places, childhood, family, so on, and she is truly trying to be better and not be the person that did things to just ruin an engagement. My son stays mainly with us lately because he wants, and that has made his relationship with his mother better. My son is even written in my parents' will, that is how much I love him, so yes. He is my son too. My parents are here and will be staying for a while. My in-laws are very careful on their excitement, and my parents, with permission, got my son on a little adventure and assured him they love him very very much and their love is infinite. He feels better now because he said he felt maybe they won't love him anymore because of my real baby. He is in therapy, always has, but now we have addressed it. He made it clear he wants me to still love him like I do, and I have assured him I will, I do, I always will. He is going to a solo trip with his dad and another solo trip with both dads. My husband and her husband have always got a good relationship, and I think it never got better cause of the stuff. My son is involved in the naming of the baby. It is between us three only. The drama portion. My husband wants us to move so we have bigger bedrooms for everybody, but I don't feel like it because pregnancy and adaptation. I want my son to be able to adapt before we start moving. My husband believes I am just cuddling him way too much, but I explained my perspective being from a blended fam as a kid and he backed off. When we look for a place we will be looking for one that we all like. End of drama portion. I am an insomniac and has not changed at all. So here we are, hi-he, only I drink no more wine anymore, lol. My son's mom is actually giving me really good tips that we are working in our own wills and so on, because I am developing a fear about the children's future, yay. And lastly, my husband is the most patient, caring, loving, goofy man. I know I got little critics saying he should have put it off when the bad stuff happened, but he is very neutral and asked me all the time if I was okay. He always said if I said no he would have changed his tune. We are so far from perfect still. We just had a discussion about the type of school my son should go next, a thing in the country, but I am glad it is now a discussion and not an argument. Also, baby is doing amazing. P.S. I love bullet points. Update 3 to my wholesome weird family. October 1st, 2021, 2 months after second update. Hey guys, I like that I can express myself freely here. I know some think our story is weird, others wholesome, others the best. But for us is a sort of dream at the moment. We got a new house. It was picked by the three of us, HB, son, me, and it is lovely and beautiful and all we want for our kids. I always said I wanted to have just 2 kids, so after this one is born we will be closed for business. My husband will get a vasectomy so I don't need to deal with hormones or birth control. I would also like to comment the new house is huge and it has a guest room so my son's brother can stay whenever he wants. They have done so before. Also, my kid turned 10. We are at a weird time, but we did a little family gathering with all 6 his grandparents and all 4 his parents. He was very happy and enjoyed it with the friends he invited to it. We all coordinated presents so we didn't outstage each other or gave him repeated gifts. I was so happy we could finally do something like this. As per my baby, she is a girl. I told my son and thought it might create issues, but he is so excited about it. We have been having family therapy too just in case, but the therapist says the kid is doing amazing and to please don't overthink things. We had a gender reveal party, which I find kinda silly, but my son wanted to cause they are very internet famous. It was just family and a couple of friends. When they realized it was a girl they all paused for a second and my son was so excited, then they got all excited. I am very happy with my family. His trips with his dad and dads went great, so we took him on a mommy's trip. We took a lot of precautions of course, but we had a blast, as much of a blast as you can have with a pregnant woman in Europe. If you know you know. He deserves it because he is the best kid ever. As for my parents, they are really happy to do things for the kid and love being around him. He or anybody other than me don't know about the will or anything, he just loves them because he is nice. My parents are considering staying permanently because they want to be close, so it might be another thing coming. My in-laws are helping them find a permanent rental or so, and we are just all so excited. As per mom, she has been more understanding and nice. I understand she was bitter, but she truly wants the best for our son, and that is our biggest common ground. And yes, she has taken up Spanish via an app. She said she wanted the kids to see us equally. Which I've always found ridiculous since she is a nurse and clearly very qualified. We have had many convos about my parents' involvement, but she is more willing to give space lately. She and her family, which have always been delightful, are now all learning the language as a way to keep it all connected. We have movie night at least twice a week, sometimes is more people than other times. I just want to let people know that it can be better and people are complicated and people can love unconditional. I apologize for my tipping skills, try do so in a desk with a belly the size of a watermelon. OHH and PS I don't reply to weird messages. Stories number 19. My BF built this gigantic in-wall DIY aquarium and left the country the next day. I am terrified. My boyfriend has been working on this beautiful in-wall aquarium at my home for many months. It is constructed of plywood painted with pond coat for the bottom and sides. The plywood pieces are glued together and to the frame with liquid nails. The glass is 1 2-inch tempered glass that he purchased from a glass tabletop manufacturer. The glass has tapered edges all around. He used 100% silicone to glue the tempered glass, 2 tabletops, to the pond-coated plywood and frame, top. He assures me that the silicone is not relying on the tapered down, thinner, edge of the tabletop, but is located in thick part. The glass has a wooden frame pressing it with deck, I think, screws and washers every 6 inch, visible in the picture. I am terrified that it is going to fail. Here's why. 2 days ago, he built the entire tank without the frame. We filled it to the top. We believe it is about 120 gallons. The silicone failed and all of the water rapidly fell through the silicone onto the floor. Since it was filled to the top at the time, it flooded the entire downstairs of my home, where I live alone with my child when my BF is not visiting. This happened 2 days before his flight back home, out of the country. I didn't want him to rush to redo it in 2 days because of the obvious catastrophe that could occur, again, if mistakes were made. He did anyways, and put water in the tank. I am terrified. Should I be? What are your thoughts about this new tank? Sum of comments. Commenter. Yeah, would probably agree with the folks here that it might be best to take a break on the project while he's gone and drain it. While I don't have the space or the balls for something like this, I can appreciate the ambition. I would not trust it if I built it though, to say the least. I'm still working on building my own stands. Reply, thank you so much. Maybe I just need a pep talk to drain it. We will be so sad to lose the plants, but my peace of mind is also on the line for the months that he will be gone. The weight of the filled aquarium. We calculated it and we think it is around 950 pounds, we were considering reinforcing the floor before filling it back up. Editor's note, 430.9 kilograms. Commenter, timeline seem off on this. It takes 3 days for the silicone to fully cure, most people say to allow a week. It should be fully cured before leak testing. Reply, he waited 24 hours. Commenter, also, coming from someone whose resident in-laws are destroying his home with half-assed upgrades and cheap replacements without even checking in first, don't let your BF touch that tank again until he's done proper research, and gain an appreciation and respect for your home. Maybe the story isn't about relational issues and that's why you didn't include anything on that, or maybe you didn't even voice your concerns to him before he left, but if your BF doesn't show any remorse for flooding your home with half a ton of water and then proceeds to try to do the same again before leaving the country. This has got red flags all over it, relationally, engineering, and possibly even in terms of fish husbandry if he has such disregard life around him. It's not my, or any of Reddit's for that matter, place to make such suggestions, but I would seriously reconsider if this is someone you want making such changes in your home and life. Reply, I was totally on board with the whole thing until it busted open. We had numerous arguments about it after its failure, me wanting to turn it into a terrarium and he wanting an aquarium. Against my very clearly explained wishes, he went ahead and filled the tank partially last night. I was devastated. We fought more. I took him to the airport at 3 a.m. this morning. It is now 9:30 a.m. and I have finally figured out how to siphon the water out. I am using a drill siphon. To a longer comment. Thank you for explaining the framing. The first time it was erected, there was no frame at all, just silicone. Then this frame that he put on top of the glass, holding it down, then glass silicone to the pond coat plywood, is supposed to fix the problem. I am not sure it will. Commenter, him flooding your home wasn't enough for you to put your foot down. Reply, I did. He filled it up while I was out. Commenter, I'd say drain the tank and then lose the boyfriend. Doesn't sound like a very considerate person. He built a poorly designed aquarium in a house that's not his, then flooded the house due to the poor design. Then he rebuilt and refilled it again against your wishes and left the country. Reply, phrased like this is what I apparently need to hear. Mini update in comments, 15 hours later. OP update, the water is out of the aquarium. I went in my crawl space and found little puddles of water throughout where the spill was. I vacuumed them with a shop vac and am returning tomorrow to vacuum any leftover spots. I am considering going down there with towels as well tomorrow or the next day. I'd love suggestions on this too, if you have them. Thanks everyone for engaging so much. More comments. Commenter. Why are you accepting this as if your boyfriend did not just jeopardize you and especially your child's home for funsies? How have you not forced the man, child, to hop on the first flight back and fix the issues he created after you said he refilled the tank behind your back? Why did you even let him leave after he did that? So many questions. Reply. His involvement has not been beneficial, and I'm unsure if I am willing to see him again. 1 hour later, I just exited the crawlspace with a full shop vac. Going back tomorrow with a dehumidifier. Thank you so much for your comments and suggestions. Update post. Update on the aquarium my BF erected and then left the country. Commenter. Sue, are you guys still together? That was a very blunt, it is disassembled in my driveway. Reply. I haven't told him. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with regard to telling him. I also have a non-changeable plane ticket to see him July 15th for a week. Also not sure what to do about that. Commenter. NGL, I know it's not the subject of this subreddit, but I'm waiting for an update on the BFI's eyes, like is he still a BF because he really did you so dirty. Reply. Hahaha, I really wanted to update everyone. Commenter. Wait, so like, where did he go? Is he coming back? Did he just make that in a manic panic and dip? I am confused. Reply. He lives in another country part-time. So he visits here for a month or two, then goes back there for a month or two. And yes, he rushed through in a panic and left me with the aquarium that was not thought out properly filled with water. A lot of his stuff is here, including a vehicle, so he will eventually see that it's gone. Commenter. What about the fishes? Reply. First, I believe that this is the first of the 666 comments that cared about the fish, so thank you for that. Also, there were no fish. Commenter. How about the plants? Reply. The plants did not make it out alive. Commenter. I need to know, when it was built, how did you have access to the top of the tank? Was one side of the glass wall lower or something? Or was it like entrapped into the wall with no access? So glad you disassembled it. Reply. That was another major problem. I couldn't access it. When we took it apart, the remaining bit of water was so gross and smelly already. Commenter. Wait, there was no access to the tank at all. How was this supposed to work? The mind boggles. Reply. There was, but it was prohibitively difficult for me to access, and very difficult, but possible, for my more agile teenager to access. Having said, I was not willing to ask my daughter to take care of it consistently. Some more info. He is still out of the country. I paid a former client, and now friend, to help me remove it yesterday. It was a Sanofa to say the least. BF and I have been arguing consistently since he left. He does not know I've removed the tank, but I am asking him questions about each and every issue that was presented by you all in addition to my continued concerns. He apologizes, but in a, sorry I even tried to do anything nice for you, sort of way. He thinks I'm overreacting. To a longer comment. Thank you for your perspective. He is totally devastated. He has worked for a year erecting this. We have watched hundreds of hours of tank building YouTube videos together. Not to mention the money, it's just altogether sad. One difference though is that he doesn't really seem remorseful about the impact on me this has had. He is only sad that he might not get to go forward with it. Commenter. What did your BF say when you told him you found literal puddles of water in your crawl space? Reply. He said this, edited for privacy and readability. That's interesting. You can go back and clean it up, but it's not super important or necessarily time sensitive. If there is standing water, it's not good in general to just leave it. Like pools of water. The only thing I would be concerned about is if that water or some of that water is coming from a source other than the aquarium. Next time it rains hard, you should check, the next day. To make sure you are not discovering a water problem, like the wall in your garage, and assuming that it all came from the aquarium. It's very possible that it all came from the aquarium. It's also possible that you have a water problem in addition of the aquarium. So basically that the water down there was not from the flooding he caused, lol. Their relationship, maybe. We have never been exclusive but have been in a close romantic relationship and friendship for about 4 years. He moved out of the country about 2 years ago. To another commenter. I am definitely less exclusive with him being not present in the area. I imagine that he is as well. My child is an older teenager and not his. He has 4 adult children that are domiciled in my area. Commenter. Holy shit. How do you do that? How do you just say maybe and accept it? Reply. There have been times that I wish we were exclusive, but also he is a lot and I need breaks. Commenter. Just wanted to drop by and say that I hope you're doing okay, OP. I know it's a silly, fun time, but I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Reply. Thank you. I thought removing the aquarium would make everything better, but it did not. I am still very sad. I cried in front of my mom and sister today about the whole ordeal, who are visiting during this, not to mention. Commenter. It is worth looking at why you have not yet been able to tell him. I totally recognize that instinct and there is no judgment from me at all, but it raises more red flags for me about the way he speaks to you about this and your reluctance to break the news. It feels like your relationship might be much more about his convenience than yours. Reply, yesterday I was sad and crying. I didn't understand why I was so sad despite the tank being removed from my home. My mom pointed out that this problem has revealed to me characteristics that are unfavorable about him and I am probably sad about that. My sister is more aware of the situation. She is around more, and sees that he is not always like this. She believes that it was very unthoughtful but is careful to express that to me because she is reading this and is aware that I'm being bombarded with negative comments about him. To another commenter, I very much appreciate everyone's insight on this and agree with you on needing to end it. It's as emotionally difficult for me to end it with him, but I think I will need to. With regard to the manic episode, maybe you are right. However, it has taken about a year of planning and preparing to get to the point of building the aquarium, so it was difficult to argue that he was being impulsive. Mini update in comments. Update. My sister and I took the pile of wood and glass that used to be the aquarium to the dump today. I haven't spoken to BF since Wednesday. I'm going to wait until I'm not so upset and then reassess our friendship. I'm browsing French doors for that opening in the wall. Considering hiring the guy that helped me remove the tank to do the French doors with me. One more thought from OOP. Thank you. Also, commenters haven't learned about all of the really nice things he has done for me over the years. And TBH, I still believe that the aquarium was intended to be a favor for me. However, I do think that to the extent the Redditors aren't trolling me, they are right about my relationship. It speaks volumes that I only asked for aquarium advice in an aquarium sub, and there was an overwhelming response from a group of people not looking to give romance advice that gave it to me. Stories number 20. Aita for going to the hospital again after my husband and a doctor said I was overreacting and still being upset about it. I feel very strange and guilty and sad about this whole situation and I really don't even know why, so I thought maybe someone could give me their opinion and it'll help me clear these feelings up. I'll try to make this as short as possible. Basically a few days ago, Monday night, F22, started to have really bad stomach cramps at about 4 p.m. I thought it was indigestion maybe or menstrual cramps, so I let it go for a few hours. At around 6 p.m. it was bad enough I mentioned it to my husband, M30, who also saw me going to the restroom every like 2 seconds. I thought I had to use the restroom but I wasn't, and I was getting concerned. My husband teased me, told me to take some Pepto-Bismol, and didn't mention it again, except for being an asshole about me going to the bathroom. But shortly after that I started having some bleeding and worse cramps that were coming and going in waves. During the worst of it I could barely stand or talk, so I asked my husband to take me to the emergency room. Now for context, I've never been to the ER in my life. I've hardly ever gone to the hospital except for one time when I was 19, because I broke my foot tripping over a tree root. But the way my husband was reacting, you would have thought I'm there every day. The wait time in the ER was over 2 hours, so I told him he could go home, and come get me when I could leave. I didn't expect him to actually leave, but he did. When they finally called me back, the doctor listened to my symptoms for like 2 seconds and told me it was just menstrual cramping and gave me some Tylenol and let me go. Of course I went home and my husband was all, "I told you so, but I'm glad it soothed your anxiety." Whatever. I tried to sleep but I couldn't. I was soaking through pads in an hour and a half and the cramps just weren't stopping. At around 2 a.m. I was in so much pain I was crying. I was in the bathroom so I don't even think I was being that loud, but my husband woke up to see what was wrong. I told him what was happening and he asked me if there was any chance I could be being a bit dramatic. I have no idea why my husband was acting this way that night. I ended up taking myself back the ER. I was so embarrassed when it was the same lady who checked me in the first time. She was really nice though, and the same doctor came back. I was actually having a miscarriage. He was very apologetic and it was all fine, I got taken care of, but it was all just very disheartening. Not to mention the fact I was miscarrying, when I didn't even know I was pregnant. I came home crying as I would think is normal. When I told my husband what was happening he was also very apologetic, but I just feel weird and stupid. I have no idea why. I think people have miscarriages kind of often and I think most of the time they don't require any medicine or anything. I just feel embarrassed and sad for having such an awful experience. I have no idea. My husband hasn't even mentioned his behavior or apologized for it. Am I being overdramatic? Is this not that serious? Aita for being so upset still. Stories number 21. Aita for not entertaining a girl who thinks I got her pregnant from fingering. I, 21M, went on like 2 dates with this girl, 18F. First date was alright, but I wasn't really feeling her. I tried to end it with a kiss, and she told me she didn't know how to kiss. That turned into me trying to teach her how to kiss, and honestly, I should have known she was a bit too young for me right there. I decided to give it one more shot. Second date, we went to the movies. She decided she wanted to help me out. I finished, cleaned up, then helped her out. That was it, no sex, no anything beyond that. I thought it was mutual that we weren't super into each other because neither of us reached out after. A few days ago, she texts me saying her period is 3 weeks late and she's really scared. She even sent me articles saying pregnancy can happen from fingering if there's somehow sperm involved. I told her to calm down, that it's super unlikely. 1. My hands didn't even touch my sperm, and 2. Sperm cannot survive that long, and that's what I told her. I kinda left it at that. I thought it was pretty fucking funny that she actually think that she's pregnant. Now she keeps blowing up my phone. I've honestly started to ignore her. My friends think it's funny but also say it's kinda messed up I'm ignoring her while she's scared. I tried to reassure her I don't know what else I could do. Update, Aita for not entertaining a girl who thinks I got her pregnant from fingering. I took the most popular piece of advice from my original post, and that was to have her take a pregnancy. I decided to text her back. I apologized for ignoring her. We met up, I bought her 2 pregnancy tests. She took them inside the bathroom of the pharmacy we bought them from. I waited outside the bathroom and let her do her thing. After she was done she asked me to come inside and we waited for the results. Now, we're waiting for the results, it's been almost 10 minuets and the test is still blank. She's looking at the test wondering why there's no results, and then she's like, I think I took it wrong. I asked what she meant because how do you take a pregnancy test wrong, and she said she forgot to take the white cap off of the part you pee on I guess. She told me she didn't have to pee anymore, and she would just take them when she got home. I said okay, and I drove her home. 2 hours later she sent me pictures and just like I expected, they both came back negative. I responded with, oh okay, good, and she liked the message, so I think we're on the same page about not communicating anymore. So yeah. She's not pregnant. Stories number 22. Aita for holding a 10+ year grudge against my brother and his wife for using my diary against me. Alright y'all, I've been a lurker for a long time but it's finally time I get some clarity from strangers. I've never done more than comment on Reddit, so sorry if my formatting is bad. Sorry for the long post. So, when I was 5, my older sister passed away. Very sad. My brother, which I will call W, was either just becoming an adult or was already one. We were a big blended family, so I don't actually remember how old he was but he's 12+ years older than me. My sister's funeral was the last time I had seen or really heard from my brother. He moved to Northern California from Southern California the first opportunity he got with his new wife. He took on a stepson, trying to hold down a job, etc. I never really held the lack of contact against him because my sisters would live with their moms in Tennessee, and W would live with his mom some parts of the year, so distance and being busy was familiar. Frankly, he's always just been more of a name in the list of siblings than actually close. I have some very vague positive memories of playing video games with him, but I was 5 and under at the time. I'm now 27. Anyway, flash forward 10 years after my sister's funeral. One of my other older brothers, who we'll call P, moved up north in that time as well, and he and his wife had a kid. P would fund the gas and food and lodging for my parents and myself to come visit them and the baby, so we were up north about once a month. My parents were horribly in debt otherwise and couldn't afford to travel much. Eventually, W asked if they could make a detour to come say hi on one of the trips and they agreed. This was the first time I'd seen W in 10 years. He looked the same but older, was still warm toward me, kind. It was really nice. While at this short visit, it was decided that I would spend a month at W's home. I don't remember my input being asked and it fits my parents to have someone take us for a while when they needed a break, so this also wasn't new. Despite that, I was really excited to reconnect with my brother as a teenager. I was, however, also aware that W threw out another of our brothers that was living with him when he turned 18, on his birthday, for having a girlfriend that already had a kid, so ironic, from a stepfather, right? I thought nothing could happen to me and my other brother just caused the kick out somehow. I was around 15 or so, loved video games, anime, talking with my online friends, technology, and learning crafts. He loved video games, drawing, anime, and technology and nerd shit too, so I was so certain this would be the best trip of my life. I had pictured us playing video games, watching anime, me learning to draw from him, he's truly an excellent artist, us interacting, etc. What I got instead was honestly one of the worst months of my life, and that's saying a lot. The first rule was that I couldn't use technology for more than an hour a day. That meant TV, laptop, video games, phones, anything that used power and wasn't a household appliance. This rule only applied to me, not his stepson, my step-nephew who was either 1 or 2 years older than me, not anyone else in the house, not any of my nephew's friends, just me. If I talked to my mom on the house phone for an hour, I couldn't play video games, touch my laptop, cell phone, or watch TV in the family room. The family room was where I was told to stay in and sleep as my room for the month. The second rule was that I wasn't allowed to talk to my nephew's friend because he was known for trying to get into the pants of younger girls. He was either 16 or 17 and would target 12 to 15-year-olds. I was expressly warned of this by W. This friend was over almost every single day, and when he would spend the night, they would have him sleep on the floor next to the couch I was on. I felt terribly unsafe. Otherwise, it was expected to be business as usual for me, except I was a technoholic at that point like every teenager is, and I only had online friends due to being a bit of a weirdo. I also had a girlfriend at the time and could only steal my phone and send her good morning texts so I could use my tech time to keep me sane. The only person who gave me something to actually do was my W's wife's mother. She was an elderly woman living with them and she taught me how to embroider. She was a star, a delight, and she was who got me through that whole mess. She also gave me a notebook, which I started to draw in and keep as a diary. After about a week, I started having really negative thoughts about my family and myself. I felt isolated, alone, bored, I have ADHD, and utterly unseen. I embroidered or drew or wrote for the next week, and things bubbled up worse. As they did, my diary entries got darker and more angry and upset. What did I do wrong to be singled out and isolated? The technology rule tightened down so much that I wasn't even allowed to watch my nephew and his perv friend play God of War if I had spent my tech time. I had to turn away from the screen and work on whatever I had in my hands. They also started forcing me to eat foods that made me want to vomit. I was a picky child and still am fairly picky, and they would sit there and scream at me well past dinner time until I ate the food and went and threw it up. They listened in on my calls to my mom too in order to see what I was saying to her. They would sit in the kitchen while I used the house phone while I tried to signal to my mom I needed to be saved. I know this all seems a little much, but from my teenage perspective, this was the most isolated I had ever been. W's wife turned out to be the one behind all this. I found out shortly after a sobbing breakdown begging to know why this was happening that my father had expressed concern that I was on my tech too much, and she ran wild with it. She also let my nephew's pervy friend chase me with a full metal stock pot of boiling water through the cemetery across from their house, and according to her I was in the wrong at the end for giving him my best nut shot with my pointy boots. I started to write in my diary how much I hated them and hated life. I started drawing emo broken hearts all taped back up. I called his wife a B and C word, but please note that I was given actual permission to curse as much as I wanted by them, so this was a use of that freedom. My catchphrase in the diary became, "Death be thy savior." I let all my anger out in the diary so I could be respectful and controlled when I was around them. With all that set up, I can finally get to the ultimate betrayal for me. A week before my mom was supposed to pick me up, W's wife's mother ate an entire container of grape tomatoes and my brother and his wife had an absolute meltdown screaming match about how she ate too much, she was inconsiderate, and much more that I can't remember now but was disgusted by then. They put up one of those baby gates and trapped her in her room since she was too frail and old to take it down. I cried to myself and wrote in my diary. By this time, week 3, I was sleeping with the diary clutched to my chest and never was without it because I knew what I had wrote and had trust issues to start with. I will admit that I did go against the rules and stowed my cell phone in the shower a few times to call my girlfriend and tell her I loved her and to pass some messages to my friends, but otherwise I was an excellently behaved child, at least outwardly. The day after everything with the tomatoes, my brother and his family actually made an effort to spend time with me by proposing going for a walk. I was ecstatic. I was actually going to get to do something. I left the diary under the couch cushion and went with them. We're all overweight. I was the smallest of us in both age and stature, with his wife and stepson being the biggest. We went for about a quarter-mile lap around the area when his wife and my nephew said they wanted to go home and were tired. W said, "Hey, we're both, last name, S. We don't do things halfway, let's go for another lap." Our family name is something we've always been very proud of. Some of you may see where this is going. Time to put in your guesses on what happened next. If you guessed that my brother used our family name to manipulate me away while his wife found and read every word of my diary, you get a cookie. As we were walking up to the house, his wife sat on the porch, holding the diary up cartoonishly to make sure I saw what she was reading. My brother condescended to me that our dad never kept secrets in the family, which was a blatant lie that maybe he was raised with, but I sure wasn't. I thought my world was over at that point. I don't remember much of the confrontation after lunging for the journal. No one physically hurt anyone, but I was punished and berated severely for what I wrote about her specifically. They took away all technology at all and made me sit in the corner and be grateful they didn't break everything I brought with me. So the moment I had my opportunity, I used the house phone, called my mom sobbing, and begged her to come get me. She told me I would have to endure for one more week because we didn't have gas money. I told her that there wouldn't be another week here and I'd find my way home if she couldn't get me. It was 4 hours later that P showed up outside the house, collected me, told W to call the family when you get your balls off of your wife's shelf, and took me to his home for the remainder of the week. The week with P, his wife, and his baby was the best possible thing for me. I was still sour about my dad giving them ammunition to make those stupid rules. I was hurt that my privacy had been violated, and still had a lot of negative thoughts, but P helped me process a lot of it through talking with my online friends and letting me beat him at video games. Things started to feel right again. By the time Mom came to pick me up, I was more myself, and told her everything, including them refusing to return my diary. She tried to get them to send me it because I wanted my drawings out of it, but they claim it got lost in the mail. P said he wished I'd said they had it when he picked me up because he would have ensured I had it back. That was over 10 years ago. In the time since, I have engaged with W over Facebook Messenger twice with crap results. We talked over the phone awkwardly for a few moments where he said he missed hearing from me when my mom died a few years ago. I told him he knows what I expect, and the same year they sent me a Christmas card with both of their cell phone numbers on it. I still don't know who gave them my current address and am furious about it. I assume it was my dad. My whole family knows that I don't talk to him. I still have him added on Facebook, and he knows I'm waiting for a direct and explicit apology for what he did. I genuinely don't want anything to do with him, but I have always kept a path open for an apology. This came up recently and my dad thinks I'm the AH for holding a grudge this long. I think I'm in the right for refusing to tolerate someone who abused me for a month straight, abused a frail old lady who's dead now, and backstabbed me with my own family name. I have a massive fear of my diary being used against me in any way, especially through something like a subpoena where I don't get a choice, so I don't keep one. I want to desperately, but I can't get myself to keep records of my thoughts just in case someone might get a hair up their ass. If I do ever write, I don't write my real feeling. The only time I write down my actual feelings, I burn the paper after. TLDR, my older brother emotionally abused me as a teenager for a month and used my angsty teenage diary against me to punish me for what I wrote. I haven't forgiven him 10+ years later and every few years he tries to poke into my life without an apology. Dad thinks I'm an ass for not forgiving him. So, Reddit, hit me with what you think, Aita. Stories number 23. My sister wants my husband, her BL, to lie on her behalf, and I don't feel comfortable pressuring him into it. My 27F sister, 34F, just moved back to our hometown and is living with my parents, who don't charge her rent. She has a very good job and is in no need of money, lives rather luxuriously. Her new job will cover $2,000 of rent for 2 months while she gets situated if she provides a record of a lease. She doesn't plan on using it within the required timeframe since she likes living with my parents. She sees an opportunity to make $4,000 by having my husband, since he doesn't share the same last name as her, write a fake sublease agreement so she can receive the stipend from her job, a large, private company. She asked him, and he was clearly uncomfortable. She then follows up with, I totally understand if you don't want to, no pressure at all. He said he'd think about it, kindly of course because he is non-confrontational. In talking to him just the two of us, he is uncomfortable, especially since this isn't the first time she's asked him to do something like this. Last time he complied. Even though it's not lying to an official agency, minimal risk, and would be taking money from a huge company that is ready to spend it, he doesn't like being pressured into compromising his morals. Sometimes I get frustrated at this too, he really is a rule follower. But his moral compass is something so core to who he is and one of the reasons I love him. My sister followed up with me privately today to see if he made a decision, and I communicated that it made him uncomfortable, but it wasn't a categorical no. I asked if she could ask one of her good friends instead. She already had and this friend said no. My sister then keeps pressing me, saying it's a lot of money and is no risk. When I said I'd take it back to my husband now that we know there's no other option, she got really mad at me. She is holding a grudge, and is sick of this in between yes and no, as if this didn't warrant discussion. She is mad at both me and my husband, saying we are inconsiderate. Am I the asshole? Stories number 24. My daughter just died. I'm a 38-year-old guy. 20 years ago I had an accident with my high school sweetheart which ended up as our daughter. At first I absolutely loved her and holding her for the first time made me feel like a completely different person, and at first like any teenage parents we struggled but our parents were there and they were kind enough to help us raise our baby while still attending college to make a better future for us and for our baby. I got into law school while she became a nurse, and we got married at 23. Everything was going great and we were working hard and saving up for a down payment on a new house, and our daughter was growing too fast and I loved every bit of it. All that changed when we were 26. I walked in on my wife sleeping with a much older dude in my own bed. He was a surgeon who worked at the same hospital as her, and he was in his late 30s and had much more money than me, and I found out it's been going on for months, and so we got divorced pretty soon afterwards. At first it was 50-50 custody, but eventually my daughter stopped coming over as much. She didn't want to see me anymore and said her new daddy was much better and he'd give her everything she wanted and asked, and that she loved him more than me, and that just fucking destroyed me. I tried to get her to come back and give me a chance, but she didn't listen, and at 15 they took her to the courthouse and she told the judge she didn't want anything to do with me anymore, and so her mom got full custody of her, and after that day I never saw her again in person, which fucking destroyed me. I swear death was better than this. I had to go to therapy for years, but for the last 2-3 years I've started moving on and forgetting about her. My business was booming and I had opened a law firm, and it's been successful ever since, and I've remarried a beautiful lady who was widowed, and I have a pretty great relationship with her son and daughter, and we're now expecting a child of our own, and I couldn't be happier. And before last week my daughter was truly gone from my mind and life, and I was truly past that part of my life. Last week I got a phone call from an unknown number and I answered because I was expecting a call from a guy, but it was my ex-wife. She told me our daughter was in a really horrible car accident and that she died. She told me about the funeral and told me to come with my parents and everything, and I couldn't say anything back, and she understood and just ended the call. I immediately started crying my eyes out. Yes, I learned how to live without her, but her actually being dead with absolutely no chance of me telling her I love her one last time fucking broke me. She's still my little girl and I still do fucking love her, and I went to her funeral and I cried like a little kid, and her mom hugged me and apologized and said my daughter loved me and wanted to make it up to me but was embarrassed by our last encounter, and even her husband said the same thing, and that she was going to talk to me one day, but it's too fucking late now for any of that. It's been a few days since then, and her mom gave me a photo album of her with all her photos, and I've just been going through them, and it hurts seeing all her big moments without me there, and it hurts even more than she isn't here right now. She was a beautiful and smart young lady, and she was even studying law just like me. I wish I could have just seen her one last time and told her how much I love her and how proud of her I am. Stories number 25. Aita for refusing to testify for my sister in her false arrest and racial discrimination case. My sister is a LEO, law enforcement officer, aka cop, in another state. She's being sued for false arrest, imprisonment, and racial discrimination. There's a lot of people that try to sue LEOs and it doesn't usually hold water or the case is dismissed. This case does though. I've seen the chest cams and transcript, and it's damning. It shows her approaching the victim, putting them in cuffs, and in the back of the patrol car with no explanation. Why? Because of their skin color. When confronted by her superiors later about her conduct, she dismisses them and says the victim is close enough. There's more to the case, but it's textbook racial discrimination and false arrest. My dad and I were talking recently and he mentioned the case to me. He said her case is moving forward to a jury trial, and suggested I write a letter to the judge talking about her character in a positive light. Furthermore, he told me I should testify for her on how good of a person she is. But I know my sister well. She's been racist for years, and has horrible character. She lied about BS aid for attention, naming men she didn't like, was a known bully in school, never takes accountability, never lets anything go, gaslights others, etc. She's an awful human being to say the least. I found out about this lawsuit through my husband Googling my sister out of curiosity. My sister and I have historically had a very tense relationship, and for over a year now she hasn't reached out or responded to me. I had a traumatic birth and very hard postpartum journey, and not once has she reached out to congratulate me, ask how I'm doing, or to inquire about her niece. So looping back, when my dad told me this stuff, I got mad. Why wouldn't my sister reach out to me versus my dad? I don't have her blocked and she knows my number, so why play telephone? So I told my dad that unless there's a court order mandate, I'm not doing anything for her. I'm not writing a letter to talk about her character in a positive light since I don't believe her to be a good person at all. And furthermore, this is the consequences of her actions. My dad is livid with me. He's a former LEO himself and holds the mentality that LEOs stick together, and that regardless of what's happened families should support each other. I don't hold that belief, instead that if anything illegal or immoral happens, I'm not here for you. My dad believes I'm being the AH in this, and because deep down she's a good person, that because she's my sister I should vouch for her in this lawsuit. Edit to add, I don't understand how this process works, I'm just going off of what my dad told me. I'll mention the perjury aspect to my dad. I don't think he cares because again, LEOs stick together, but whatever. And, my dad is also extremely racist. Edit, I've decided to go NC with her. Due to our history and how awful of a person she is, I can't continue a relationship with her. It's best for me and my family if I sever ties. I'm heartbroken, but it needs to be done. Stories number 26. Why does it feel like infertility is always assumed to be the woman? My husband and I had infertility struggles. Basically, he had less than 2 million in a sample and all were deformed. My tests came back normal. We were public with our IVF results, which weren't great. We underwent 2 sessions of IVF and I only ended up with 1 embryo who developed into my amazing son. Yesterday, while I was at work, one of my coworkers approached me and said, "You know, there's lots of women who thought they couldn't get pregnant but then got pregnant." I just stared right at her and went, "I can get pregnant." After an awkward pause, she went, "I don't know why I assumed you couldn't." Well, I mean, I did become pregnant via an embryo. I was pregnant, I had my son. But this rhetoric has been very common to me. I've had people give me advice, just go on birth control and then get off birth control. That'll make you pregnant. I had another coworker tell me she'd happily be a surrogate for me. Like, she seen me pregnant. I understand people really don't understand why we're choosing to only to have 1 child. The emotional and financial toll of IVF really hurt us. But in the 10 years of us having unprotected intercourse, we never conceived naturally. The only time we were successful is when an embryo, that had to have his sperm injected directly into it to be successful, was placed by doctors into me. Fertility issues are half and half. Which makes sense. Why would it only be women who are infertile? Now, this is an issue that has bothered me silently but it's one I cannot really discuss. I don't want to throw my man under the bus here. Infertility wasn't his fault. He's a healthy, normal guy. We don't know why his results were dismal. I wanted to go public to alert people to the difficulties of IVF. But it really does seem like the general consensus is that it must be the women's fault. Anyway, is it sexism? Is it that the idea of males being infertile is so taboo, people default to it? Is it just that I was the public one? Stories number 27. Aita for wanting to break up with my fiancé after he took off my pants. Changing some personally identifying info in case anyone I know might stumble across this. My fiancé, 37M, and I, 28F, have been together for 5 years, engaged for a little over 6 months. I have a medical condition that causes me to lose consciousness unexpectedly from time to time. My fiancé has always been very supportive when it comes to managing these episodes, and for the most part, we've gotten used to it and it isn't as big a deal anymore. When I pass out, I'm usually out cold for a long time, and it takes a lot for me to wake up. My fiancé knows this and just takes me to bed whenever it happens. Recently, I had another fainting spell, but it wasn't what I normally experience. I passed out briefly and then woke up again not too long after, a little groggy but still conscious. When I woke up, my fiancé was carrying me to our bedroom, and as soon as he set me on the bed he started taking off my pants. I was still kind of out of it, I guess, so I didn't say anything at first, and he kept moving like he didn't realize I was awake. He didn't just pull my pants off but yanked them down really hard along with my panties, all the way down to my ankles, and I could hear him undoing his belt and zipper as well. I was lying face down, so I didn't see this. When I came back to myself and could speak again, I asked him what he was doing and why he'd pulled my pants down. He seemed startled that I was awake and just stood there for a few seconds. He might have said something after that, but I ended up passing out not long after. I woke up hours later, and everything felt Oklahoma, physically. I was more so weirded out by what it seemed like he was doing just before I went unconscious. I've been in situations where my fiancé has had to help me get undressed, e.g., coming home drunk from the bar or something, and it was always a gentle, careful thing. On top of that, I was wearing PJs when this latest fainting spell happened, so I don't see why my fiancé would have needed to take off my clothes in the first place. I asked him about it after I woke up, and he said that he had no idea what I was talking about. He said that I never woke up after the first time I passed out and he never tried taking off my clothes at any point. He seemed very adamant about this and frankly sounded annoyed that I would even ask, so I didn't press him on it too much more. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since it happened. I don't know if I'm overreacting here or if I might have a legitimate reason to want to put a pause on things. Stories number 28. She tried to kick me out of my seat at a cafe she doesn't own. I was at my favorite little cafe, laptop out, headphones in, enjoying a quiet corner seat by the window. I'd been there for maybe 30 minutes, sipping my drink and working, when this woman walks up and just stands there next to me, staring. I take off one earbud and go, "Hi," she goes, "You've been here a while." I always sit here, like, what? I said, "Okay, but I'm using it right now." She rolls her eyes and tells me she's friends with the owner and that this is her spot because she comes every day. I said, "If it's your spot, maybe you should have gotten here earlier." That did not go over well. She started muttering about how people with laptops ruin cafes, and then, she went to get a staff member. The barista comes over, clearly exhausted with her, and says, "Ma'am, it's first come, first served." You know that, she looked so offended, like she'd just been betrayed by her own team. She glared at me, mumbled something about manners, and stormed off to the other side of the cafe like a child. Am I crazy, or are people way too entitled these days? Like, no one owns a cafe seat. Just because you loiter here daily doesn't mean you get assigned seating. Stories number 29. AIO for asking my husband why he gave his mom my seat at graduation. My husband, 33M, and I, 31F, don't argue much, but this one has me quietly boiling. I graduated with my master's last weekend. I worked full-time, raised our daughter, 2F, and pulled night classes for 2 years to get here. Each graduate was given 3 guest tickets. I gave mine to my husband, my mom, and my sister. Cool. Day of graduation, I'm walking into the venue with my cap half falling off, and my husband waves me over, with his mom next to him. I assumed she somehow got a ticket, maybe from another student. Nope. Later, my sister texts, "Where are you sitting?" I said, "Aren't you there?" And she replied, "I didn't get in." No ticket. Apparently, he gave my sister's ticket to his mom without telling me. His excuse: "Your mom and sister would have both cried anyway, and my mom's never seen you graduate." I told him that was disrespectful, and he told me I was being overly sensitive and making a scene over a seat. I left dinner early and haven't really spoken to him since. He thinks I'm being cold over something logistical, but I feel hurt and blindsided. Am I overreacting? Stories number 30. AITA for telling my daughter she needs to grow up, and apologize to her sister. My late husband died when my oldest daughter, Sophia, was 9 and my youngest daughter, Julie, was 2. Julie has 0 memories of her biological dad. I started to date 4 years after his death and remarried 7 years later. Sophia was 16 and Julie was 9. Sophia wanted nothing to do with him and looking back was a dick to him. My husband, Jim, never tried to force Sophia to see him as a father figure, but Julie did see him as a father figure. She refers to him as dad. Both girls have been to therapy. Sophia hated it and I actually think it made the issue below worse. Julie liked it and helped her overcome never knowing bio dad. That was the main issue between Sophia and Julie. Sophia thought Julie was abandoning and replaying their bio dad. Julie made it very clear that Jim is her dad and basically bio dad doesn't mean much to her since she doesn't remember him. Many fights and their relationship was strained. Therapy didn't help, separate and group were tried. It got better when Sophia went off to college and they had space. Julie, 24, is getting married. She announced this during dinner last Saturday and asked for Jim to give her away. Sophia did not take that well and started telling Julie that she was a horrible daughter and that she is replacing dad. The announcement was ruined and Julie told her not to come to the wedding. I pulled Sophia aside and told her that she needs to apologize to her sister for her outburst, that she is way too old for this and it is time for her to grow the fuck up. That is fine that she doesn't see Jim as her father, but get over that her sister does. She was crying when I finished, told me it is my fault for getting remarried in the first place and had not contacted me since. I know she apologized to Julie but she won't respond to any of my texts. Same-ish question being asked, her is one of my comments answering it. No, he never forced himself to be a father figure. Bio dad stayed very alive in memory after my wedding, he wasn't hidden. He still got mentions and story all the time, he was celebrated on his birthday and so on. No grave visiting because he is cremated and is on the fireplace. Stories number 31. Entitled Mom tells me to quit my job so I can babysit, for free. I, 27F, work remotely full-time. One of my neighbors has 3 kids under the age of 6. We're friendly but not close. She recently had her 3rd child and knocked on my door asking if I had a moment. She sat down, started sobbing, and told me she was overwhelmed, had no support, and needed someone to watch her kids during the day. I sympathized, until she said, "You don't even leave your house. Can't you just watch them while you work?" I told her I have a real job with meetings and deadlines, and I'm barely managing myself. She goes, "Why not quit? I mean, you don't have kids, you can always find another job. I just need a few years to get back on my feet." Excuse me? You want me to quit my income, health insurance, and career so I can babysit, for free? When I refused, she accused me of failing other women and not supporting other moms. Ma'am, I support you getting a nanny, not me becoming one. She now glares at me every time I walk my dog. Stories number 32. I finally told my wife I found out about her secret. My wife and I have been together for a few years. We've been married for 1.5. I've known her secret or started to suspect it since the early stages of our relationship, but I never had the courage to just flat out ask about it. A lot of you are probably thinking she's cheating or something like that, but I know for a fact that's not happening. So, here's the story. TLDR at bottom. It all started one of the first few days we hung out. We were sitting on the couch talking and I noticed how straight and perfect her teeth were. In my mind I had a flash of a thought, could they be dentures? I figured it didn't really matter and I definitely wasn't going to make things awkward and straight ask. I really liked this woman and I didn't want to screw things up. Fast forward to about a year later and we're living together. We had moved into a house together and she had moved her stuff from her grandma's house. I was looking for something in the bathroom and was searching way up on the top shelf. My wife is slightly taller than me, there was a container of stuff up there and in it I found some type of denture cream and I was like, huh, that's weird. It's probably her grandma's. I put it back and didn't think anything of it. Fast forward another couple months and her adult daughter is over at our place and makes an out-of-pocket joke about my wife wearing dentures. Some context, my stepdaughter has a very odd sense of humor and jokes about extremely random stuff. So, me being the pea-brain I am, from the other room blurts out, why would she joke about you wearing dentures? I can't remember exactly what was said but it was played off as a joke. Then I thought about the denture cream and how perfect her teeth are. But I loved this woman and even if it was true I didn't really care. If it's true she's probably embarrassed. Fast forward another few months and I'm looking for something again. She's in the bathroom doing her daily routine and I need to look in her purse for whatever I was looking for. I go to ask her where her purse is and I see it on the couch. Awesome, I'm rummaging around and boom. I found them. One of her dentures. So now I'm like, well, obviously it was true. What do I do? Am I mad? No. Not really. I'm disappointed she lied to me but I can understand why. It's not like the lie affected me in a negative way. Is it really a lie if she just wasn't ready to share that part of her? Anyway, so I basically just pushed it to the back of my mind and hoped she would eventually open up to me. We got married and have 2 kids now. I was reserved to the thought that she may tell me her little secret. Until, I found out that she will be having an endoscopy in a few days. I've had quite a few endoscopies due to GI issues. So, I am quite familiar with the questions they ask prior to being sedated. They ask a few questions about teeth and if you wear dentures for safety reasons. So, I'm going to be taking my wife to the surgery and will most likely be in the room with her when they ask these questions. I really didn't want to make things awkward and have her think I found out by her answering the questions and then asking her to remove her dentures before surgery. So, I figured I would save my wife the embarrassment and having to explain to her that I already knew while having strangers witness a private intimate moment between us by coming clean to her earlier tonight. She pretty much just confirmed what I already knew. She didn't tell me because she was embarrassed and then the joke from her daughter, who didn't know that I didn't know, then turned it from just something she didn't tell me into something she lied about. So at that point she felt like she couldn't tell me because she had already lied about it. And before anybody comes into the comments with the, if she can lie about this what else did she lie about, save it. You don't know our relationship just from this post so don't try to convince me she's a liar. Everybody has told lies they are not proud of so think about the lies you've told before you start preaching about others. Edit to add by request. TLDR, my wife was embarrassed and thought I would be grossed out by her having dentures so she didn't tell me. Her daughter, not knowing I was unaware, made a joke about her wearing dentures. So my wife lied and said she was just joking. I later found evidence that she does wear dentures but never told her I knew until today. Stories number 33. AIO for refusing to host a family dinner because my sister treats me like the help. I, 32F, own a small but cozy home and have always been the one to host events because I have the space, red, no kids and I keep my place clean. My younger sister, 29F, has 3 kids under 6, and she and her husband live in what I would kindly call chaos. Loud, messy chaos. For the last few years, every holiday dinner has been at my place. I cook, clean, set up activities for the kids, and buy wine and snacks just in case. No one ever offers to pitch in beyond bringing soda or napkins. My sister in particular shows up, dumps her kids in my living room, and plops on the couch until food is served. This year, I told the family I'm opting out of hosting Thanksgiving. I said I'm tired, and I want a break. My sister lost it, said I was being selfish and knew full well she couldn't host. She told me I don't understand how hard it is being a mom, and I get off on being the favorite child. Our mom called and tried to guilt-trip me by saying I'm making the holidays hard on everyone. I suggested they rotate hosting next year to keep things fair. Now my sister's Facebook is full of passive-aggressive, some people just don't get family, posts. Am I overreacting for saying no after years of doing everything? Stories number 34. I threatened my manager with malicious compliance, he didn't take it, so I went all in. Right after finishing my training, I landed my first full-time job in quality control at a mid-sized chemical company. The team in the lab was 5 people, me full-time, the others part-time. The company always claimed that even though they were not part of the union, they still paid according to union contracts. I am from Germany, many industries are unionized and generally all employees get the contracted pay, no matter if they are members or not. It was good money at the time, I had no reference and no reason to doubt. Until I got engaged 7 years later. My fiancée had the exact same training, worked for a bigger company and they actually followed the union contract. The starting wage was the same, but real union contracts had pay raise after set times. This led to a difference in €600 per month. I was a bit upset, to say the least. I was looking for a new job, but a 3 months notice period was too long for many possible employers. So, being frustrated and not really attached to my old job, I was free to comply maliciously in a way I would never recommend to anyone who wants to keep their job. I copied the part of the union contract with the wage table. There was a nice little relation between training level, tasks, and wage ranges. Armed with this and a secret weapon, I asked for a talk with my manager. In his office I laid the union contract on his table, showed this nice little table and said something along the line, "You always tell people that this company pays according to the union contracts. Look at this, there is a gap between my skills and tasks, and my pay. It's a €600 gap. So, to comply to your statement, there are 2 ways to fix this. First, I get €600 more, second, I stop doing many of my tasks." Which one should it be? He wasn't thrilled. Said I was really leaning out of the window with that statement, a German idiom, basically, getting bold. I replied, 30% of your department's manpower is sitting in front of you. My fiancée is getting paid the real union wage and we are looking forward to move together. Question is where, as we live 120 kilometers, about 75 miles, apart. My biggest obstacle is my 3-month notice period. Then came my secret weapon. I pulled out a fully written letter of resignation and asked for a pen to sign it. Long story short, I got the €600 raise. I stayed there for another year. So basically I was malicious and my employer complied. Hope this qualifies. TLDR, boss said we follow union pay. I showed we didn't. Gave him the choice, raise my pay or reduce my tasks. Had a resignation letter ready. Got the raise. P.S. I do not recommend pulling out a resignation letter unless you really mean it. I did. PPS. Yes, this formatting is intentional. Just to be safe. Stories number 35. My future SAL insulted me at dinner and my fiancé told me to apologize. Hi everyone, I'm engaged to a man I love deeply. We're getting married in a few months. Everything has been smooth between us except when it comes to his sister. Let's call her L. From the start, Elle has made it very clear she doesn't like me. She never says anything directly cruel, but always finds a way to make me feel small comments like, "You're not family yet," or, "Wow, he's never dated someone like you before," all with a sweet little smile. I've never responded rudely. I usually just smile and change the subject. But this weekend, during a family dinner, she said something about me marrying into money, and how I should be grateful. I calmly said I didn't think that was appropriate. Later that night, my fiancé told me, "I know she's out of line, but could you just apologize to keep the peace? She's sensitive." I was stunned. I told him I felt hurt not just by her, but by him asking me to apologize when I've done nothing wrong. He said he just wants everything to be smooth until the wedding. I don't know what to do. I've never wanted to be someone who starts family drama, but I also don't want to keep swallowing my pride just to keep other people comfortable. Any advice? How do you handle someone who subtly disrespects you and a partner who sees it but still wants you to let it go? Stories number 36. Picnic with my boyfriend turned sour. Now, I feel weird about our relationship. Hello. Yesterday, me and my boyfriend went out for a picnic near a river. At first, it was very fun, but then a woman with a dog sat near us. Her dog was unleashed and was constantly going into the river and shaking the water off of him on us and my computer. We were watching a movie. We tried asking the woman to leash the dog or at least to keep him away from us. She just brushed us off and was overall very rude to us and dismissive. She was also drinking. It's a public park. At one point, the dog just grabbed my shoe and started running around. My boyfriend confronted the woman and was threatening to call the police. I hate confrontational situations like this, so I just started packing out stuff and telling us to leave, almost to the point of begging him, but trying to keep it cool as I did not want to upset the woman. He got visibly annoyed and mad, but started to help me pack. After we left, he immediately called me disgusting names, bitch, whore, and so on, was almost shouting. I was confused and hurt. His explanation was that I acted selfish, because, we came together, so we will leave together, and I acted selfish for not listening to him when he told me to just sit down and stay, he would have called the police. I finally caved in and just apologized for being selfish and forcing us to leave. It's not the first time he has called me these words. His explanations are that it's a natural reaction to my actions which upset him and I should not upset him to the point he breaks. I feel weird. I understand that it's not okay to call people you love such words, but what if I make him so angry to the point he just breaks? I am so confused. Stories number 37. It's hard to have empathy for you. I'm still processing this one. I've been in a relationship with my male partner for a couple of years and I've accepted that he has low EQ. For example, he cannot talk about emotions and he really struggles to understand what I'm thinking and feeling about trivial things. We started couples therapy last year after I ended the relationship and told him that the future of our relationship was contingent on us figuring this out. A recent point of contention was how he asks me to make tea for him as soon as I finish up a 10+ hour workday. Our couples therapist prompted him numerous times to try to consider how I would feel at the end of the day, and how it might have been more appropriate to offer me care instead. Nope. Nada. Cannot wrap his mind around that. He's also interrupted my at-home yoga practice to ask for tea as well, since I'm already standing up. Last night we had therapy again and we talked about my anxiety last week over a medical procedure. He opened up and shared that he felt confused and tired from my emotions and that I shouldn't feel anxious about any of this, and started outlining all of the reasons why my emotions were wrong. Our therapist interjected and asked if he could find any empathy for me. The procedure was a CT scan at 11 p.m. on a work night in a city an hour away. He couldn't. After therapy ended, I asked how he could work on developing his empathy. He said that he actually understands empathy very well, just that, it's hard to have it for you. I said that I felt really concerned by this, and he quickly tried to cuddle me and refused to elaborate further. I don't know what I'm looking for here. I know what needs to be done. But WTF. I had no idea how deeply this issue ran in our relationship and I can now understand what's felt so off for several months now. Stories number 38. DNA test got my baby daddy in trouble. So I found out I was pregnant and instantly the father upped and disappeared. Baby is born now and I ran a DNA test on her so my mother would get off my back about what her race was. That's a long story itself. The results came back and little did I know it would come with familiarity matches. Baby daddy's family is on the same site I used. Oops. But not even a month later I get a message from his mother asking me if her son was the father of my daughter. We got into contact and I told her everything that had happened from when we first met to our last conversation when I told him I was pregnant. Come to found out the MF is married and didn't want his marriage ending because of him having a baby with someone else. His mother said she was going to get into contact with him and said what he was doing was wrong. So ends up reaching out to me again and tells me where he works and his address and to put him on child support and to take him to court. So now months later and he's been dodging everything, but we found out he ended up leaving his wife. He also upped and left in the middle of the night while she was at work. He told his mom never to contact him again, that we both had ruined his life. So I'm not even mad, I feel bad for his wife, but not for him. Who knew doing a simple DNA test to prove my mother wrong would have caused so much crap? Stories number 39. Aita for refusing to go on a double honeymoon. I, 33M, used to be married to my best friend, Callie, 33F. I'm gay, she's a lesbian. We grew up in a conservative town in the deep south where coming out wasn't really an option. So when we were 20, we got married. It was a way to avoid questions and stay safe. We moved out of state a few years later, got divorced soon after. There was no drama, we were always just friends, and we've stayed close. We still hang out regularly. I recently married my husband, Miguel, 30M. A couple months later, Callie married her wife, Bree, 34F. Both weddings were low-key, and while Miguel and Bree aren't close, they're friendly enough when we're all together. A week ago, Callie suggested the four of us take a trip together as a kind of double honeymoon. She thought it would be meaningful since we've known each other for so long and have been through a lot together. She had a couple destinations in mind and said it could be fun to celebrate this new chapter side by side. I told her I appreciated the thought, but Miguel and I weren't really comfortable with that. We're planning a small trip for just the two of us, and we'd rather keep it that way. It's not personal, it's just something we want to experience privately. Callie didn't take it well. She said it felt like I was distancing myself now that I got what I wanted, and brought up how we had each other's backs for years. I told her I didn't mean to hurt her, but I think we're allowed to want our own space as a couple. Now things are a little tense. Bree messaged me to say she gets it, but Callie's upset and feels like I brushed her off. I'm wondering now if I was too blunt or if I should have handled it differently. Aita for not wanting to do a double honeymoon. Stories number 40. Sold our house. This was about 5 years ago. Our house was just 1 year old and was a smart home that we had 2 dogs that were washed every week and completely housebroken. So, we sold the house and paid to have the house cleaned and the carpets cleaned after we were out. Moved forward about 3 weeks and we received a letter from the couple that bought our house. They basically said that the carpets smelled like dog so bad they couldn't let their newborn crawl on the carpets. They went on to say they pulled up all the carpet in the house and they think we should volunteer to pay for it since they have a newborn. They wanted $10,000. At first, I thought it was a joke and called my realtor, who had been there many times. She said that was absolutely ridiculous and we were not obligated to give them a dime. Instead, my husband decided to quietly pay them back. As I mentioned, it was a smart house and he still had the app to control the AC and lights to the house. He would turn their heat up at night and turn the AC down during the day. Not too awful but just enough to make them uncomfortable. It was just the perfect level of petty for greedy people. Stories number 41. Aita for expecting my husband to parent while being sick. I feel really silly posting this because I've never posted anything like this before. Me and my husband are both 25 and have a 2.5-year-old. Married 5 years. My husband got sick with a cold yesterday and so today he stayed home from work. I usually handle all the parenting and house chores, at least most, during the day so it wasn't hard to leave him alone to rest in the morning. He played some video games and laid in bed the whole time. By afternoon, I logged into work so I let my toddler run around the house, in our room, wherever. I wasn't really paying attention since she was fed and happy and my husband was downstairs while I was upstairs in my office. As dinner time rolled around, I logged off and made dinner. He still was laying around, which was fine because he is sick. After dinner, I went to his parents with my daughter just to drop off some things and help out my mother-in-law for an hour. When I told her my husband was sick, she gave me a bunch of food for him and kept asking if I gave him medicine and that's only then when I began to get a little irritated. I got home and my daughter was fussy since it was a little past her usual bedtime. The house was a mess, dinner still needed to be cleaned up. I already knew I would need to but for some reason I just felt so frustrated in the moment. My husband walked out and I just began to clean, letting him deal with our daughter. At first, it took him 20 minutes just to get her into clothes. By then I was finishing up cleaning. He put her in bed without brushing her teeth and I had to remind him to brush her teeth. That's when he started grumbling about how he's sick and he doesn't have energy to handle her when she's fussy. I lost it and almost yelled at him to just brush her teeth and go to bed. He said I was being unreasonably mean. We haven't really talked much after. He brushed her teeth and they both went to sleep right away. I just can't sleep. I'm so frustrated still. When I'm sick, my routine doesn't change. The only thing different is that I either don't work, or work half as much hours. When I'm sick, I still do all the house and parenting duties. Am I really the asshole for expecting him to do parenting duties while sick?